5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
They've landed.
You're in the right place. Online, on the web, and on air. All over the world.
Talk Radio.
You hear us, we hear you.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the KTPF Community Talk Show. My name's Suzanne, and I'm here with Steve, as well as our medium, Neil Munnelly. So I hope you've all had a great week.
Is he not whispering anymore?
I don't think he is whispering.
Hi, guys.
Whispering Neil Munnelly. So I hope everyone's had a great time over the week. There's been a lot going on throughout the week. Been a lot going on in here. We've been having a good old change around through the house. I'm knackered. What was it you put on your Facebook, Steve?
I moved the fridge freezer.
Yeah.
Ended up moving the whole pig in house. The bedroom got changed. The spare bedroom got changed. This room, believe it or not, did get tidied up.
Not changed.
Yeah, the living room got moved around.
Yeah, well, that's what you get, us women. So let's just say hello to everyone that's in the hub, in the chat room. I keep calling it a hub, I don't know why. Who's in the chat room?
In the room.
Yeah. So let's see who's in the chat room at the moment. Well, at the moment we have the Reverend. Yes, I did say Reverend Doc Savage in Minnesota. He was ordained recently.
Yes, congratulations, Doc.
Okay.
Otherwise known as John.
Yes.
Well done, John.
That's Minnesota PIG, MMPIG. We also have in the hub tonight, we have Simply Joe from Simply Ghost Nights, and hello to you. We have Tiger Tots 1967, and also we have our brother-in-law there as well. So hello to everyone there. Anybody else has come in? Nigel's 333. He's in. And I've got some news for you for next week, Nigel.
1974.
Yes, I've got some news for you for next week, Nigel, so listen to that shortly. And we also have his other half, which is Helen, Hobbs 1974.
And Nigel knows how I feel. He's been laying carpets all week, he says.
Oh, has he? I don't know. It must be this Christmas bug, even though I'm trying so hard not to get it at the moment. I'm going to wait. I've not even bought any presents. I'm going to get, like I said on my statement, on my Christmas, on my statement on my Facebook, I am going to buy a going away present for the Secret Santa, just in case what happens next week. So, so anyway, we've also got Green Lee in there. Hello, Lee. How are you?
Well,
if Lee's in, then Reiki Debs isn't far behind.
She'll be far away.
So I'm sure she won't be long before she's there. Well, let me just quickly tell you what's coming up tonight. Okay. We have a man coming from, speaking to us later on about 8:30 on Skype. His name is Mark Anthony, and he is a lawyer. But in England, we have our very own psychic barber in Gordon Smith.
Well, it's Scotland, but yeah.
Yeah, I know. Well,
UK.
United Kingdom.
In the UK.
In America, he is a psychic lawyer. So we're going to be finding out from him.
Yeah. Being a lawyer being his day job.
Yes. So I'm just wondering how it, I'm sure it must cross over somewhere.
We were talking the
other
other day and he said it comes in handy sometimes.
Yes.
Especially when you're picking the jury.
So we will be talking to him later. Plus, you will have your chance to have a reading live on air, but you need to ring in for that, okay? It's got to be that you have to call in for this. It can be on either Skype or on the telephone, and he guarantees us he will be able to do it. And we'll find more about that later. He gave me a good excuse why he thinks he can do it as well. So we will be talking about that later. So I'm hoping everyone can hear us okay. So if you could just let us know. Also, later on, after we've done all the bits and pieces with the paranormal events and everything, we was going to have Kerry Cox on from Bomber County Paranormal. Unfortunately, she can't make it tonight because she's lost her voice. I think it's things that's going around at the moment. John lost his voice last week. He had his voice lost for a while.
He
So-
had bronchitis.
Yes, he had bronchitis, but she's lost her voice. So unfortunately, she was going to come in and talk to us about homes where not places where we've been talking about recently, where we've been booking them and going and they've been faking the activity. But she was going to talk to us about private homes that call you in for, help I'm haunted sort of thing, and actually faking it. So she was going to talk to us about that, and but unfortunately she can't be with us tonight. So hopefully, if you're listening, Kerry, we hope you get better soon, and we'll get you on the show some other time when you're feeling 100%. Okay, so watch this space.
What do you think about that, Neil?
It happens quite a lot, actually. I was dealing with a family, be about nearly 20 years ago now, that was in the press quite a lot down in Derbyshire. But to be honest, I did 2 visits, and there was nothing there, to be honest.
Yeah.
But there were some mediums going in there, and they were sort of staying 2-3 nights and going along with the old story, and it was just a fame thing. They just wanted fame. And
Well, let's think about it. We went to one recently that we did with our colleague Steve Mera, and that lady was telling us that they had a medium come to their house from a group.
I'm sorry to all good mediums, but this particular one wants stringing up.
But what was it he said?
And how delightfully do it.
What was he saying? I was actually seeing them. How did he explain it to her?
He said that these, and I'm not sure if he actually said demons or anything, but he said these nasty spirits are chained to you.
Yeah, they're chained to
They're
her.
scaring the shit out of the poor woman.
isn't it?
So,
And if you want, we
You
can
know.
come back and get rid of them.
yeah,
Yeah.
for the money.
Yeah, exactly. For how much money?
I think it was probably something like £30 per.
Yeah, you know what I mean?
Per
So
spirit.
actually, no, we do
It
it
wasn't
for
anybody
nothing.
I know, was it, by any chance?
No. As
Alright
as
then.
you know, we do it for nothing. So but
Well, any decent, reputable medium would.
this is it.
You're going in to help somebody, you're not going in to do
No,
a
you
show.
never
Can
charge
I-
for rescue work.
Can I just interject, please?
Pardon?
I just need to interject.
Interject.
John in Minnesota, why do you keep typing B? Are you hearing us okay? Is everything fine there? So I just wanted to ask that, because all I'm getting is B. So,
Well, we said be right back, so that's the B.
and then he sent it a B again.
Yeah, I think in a minute you'll get an R.
Oh, right,
I
okay.
think.
Perhaps there's an R missing.
Unless that's the only button on his keypad that will work.
Nigel said chain to your rubbish.
Yeah, well, this is it. You know, how can people say that to
Yeah,
people?
but people who don't, who
No,
are
I
not
know, if they're
sensitive,
not-
are not mediums,
they
they're,
don't
they're
know.
taking the medium's word.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
And that's just ridiculous.
can I also say, if you do have trouble with anything lagging on the site, please can you, or if you have problems and you do lose us, if it's
I
us,
do like that.
we will come back.
Where Lee actually says hello to his missus, who's probably in the same room.
Ah, she probably is. So, hi Debbie.
I was
I
actually
knew
talking
you
about that
belong.
this morning, about people texting now. They don't talk, they text.
Yeah,
Well,
And it's
Well-
like they text each other even though they stood next to each other.
well, this is
well,
it.
I've only used to do that to a girlfriend he had
Yeah.
once. They'd be sitting at the same table,
Yeah.
Okay.
Can I just say,
texting each other.
let me just say,
Sitting right next door to each other.
It's like, what are you watching on television? I'm watching the same as you because I'm sat next to you.
if you do have any problems with the site, we say this every time, that we have, unfortunately, it's a live stream production, so if you do have any problems and you lose us, but you're okay on the site, just wait for us. We will come back, and if you find that you are lagging a bit, then you can always go to livestream.com/KTPF, where some people do actually go to. Oh, right, you're trying to get Anita logged in. Okay, John. Right, okay.
John, you don't have to log in. Just come in as a guest. You don't have to actually register.
So, do you not?
No,
I don't know. I don't
No,
know.
I mean, if you come in there, click on that, and try and post it, it'll come up.
Yeah,
You just put your screen name on and say okay. You don't
Right.
actually have to register.
right, okay.
I don't.
So-
I'm not registered.
Okie dokie. You're not registered, Steve? Oh, I don't know. Right, okay, so as I say, we've got just over 15 minutes before we contact our first guest. But as I said, Kaylee won't be able to make it this time, but hopefully she will do. Later on, we have a regular in our chat room, Mr. Andy Mercer. He's going to be talking to us later on about the occult. Apparently not the dark and gloomy side, but he wants to alleviate a few things. And also, we want you to ask questions. And I'm expecting one word to come up on the chat room any minute. But
Can you actually say it? Twaddle.
yes, we've all got it.
Thank you, Deb.
I beat you.
So basically, he's going to come on and talk to us about that. So with love and respect. So it's his opinions. So as with everything.
Oh, maybe some of us could actually change his opinion on something.
Well, this is it. We never know. Or he might change our opinions. But with Neil being such an expert on the occult and exorcisms and stuff like that, he may have a colleague here or an adversary, one of the two. We'll find out that later on.
I'm really ready for an argument today as well. But what's happened to me today?
Oh dear. So it could be anything goes tonight. Oh dear me.
Yeah,
Right.
It could be one of them shows we've all been waiting for.
Now, can I just check? Can everyone hear Steve okay? Because when I played it back last week, he was very, very low. So is everyone hearing him okay? Loud and clear? Oh, good.
Yeah.
That's all right then.
They can hear me.
So I'll make sure I'm turning you up a bit. So right. The die has gone to his
Yeah,
head.
you didn't have to say that, so, you know.
It's all right.
You didn't have to
Everyone
repeat
saw
that.
it.
Oh, no, we didn't have to repeat it.
Right, okay, so just before I go into the observations, let me just put Nigel out of
I'm
his
not going
misery. I'm just going to put Nigel out of his
You
misery.
do that. I'm not going on that. I'm going in that last statement.
Basically, next week we haven't got Tony Toppin, unfortunately, because he's got other arrangements, unfortunately. But we do have somebody to stand in, and his name is Dex Dolby. And I believe you know him, Nigel. And he will be here. Oh, Dex. Oh, yes. He will be here in the hub. Downstairs, Dex is a great laugh. Well, it should be a good night. It's one to round off the year with. Mark Rosney will be here next week, so will Dave Shirley. So it looks like we're going to have about 5 people.
Yeah, I thought we'll have to move downstairs.
He is mad, and he won't mind me saying that. No, not from the Midnight Runners, I don't think so. But he's calling himself Transfiguration Man. So there's something interesting. So we'll see what happens with that one. But more about that during the week. I'll put something on the internet, and you'll find out. He is totally mad. Well, I was told he was Barking, or he was from Barking, one of the two. I thought it was a new paranormal theme.
In the nicest possible way, of course.
That's a good name, isn't it? The Midnight Runners. So, right, okay. Right, okay, let's do the
Quick,
observations.
somebody buy the domain for nobody knows.
Right. Well, we did have somebody said we should change our name to, was it the Screechers or something? The Shadow Screechers or something or other.
Why?
I don't know. I think they were going through a bike mode or something or other. But anyway.
Either that or they were talking about the chicken.
No, there wasn't. It was Gal. Paul's Gal.
Silly person.
They were talking about bikes, and they were talking about bike names. Shadow... Hey! Excuse me! Excuse me! Andy 707's in.
Hi, Andy.
Right. Nigel just said, what about the Shadow Twaddlers? No way. Right, I am calling myself that. Shadow Seekers we are, and Shadow Seekers we will be. We're on to the observations. We'll be speaking to you later, Andy. It's all right, we're talking about names. Dex's Midnight Runners, and they were saying it was a good name, and all this, that, and the other. And we were saying, somebody said we should call ourselves the Screechers or something.
the Shadow Runners.
Shadow Runners. No, let me get on with the observations. Right. Who likes coffee?
Drinking.
Now, would you like to?
Drunk.
Would you like a nice, smooth cup of coffee? Simply Joe says no. Then ask an elephant. Then ask an elephant. A herd of elephants are being used to produce some of the world's most expensive coffee. The exotic new brew, trumpeted as earthy in flavour and smooth on the palate, is made from beans eaten by a herd of 20 Thai elephants and plucked a day later from their dung. Okay.
Someone's going to go, ew.
Sounds like a trial from I'm a Celebrity?
A bit like the monkey coffee then.
Well, it's not. Okay. Elephants in Thailand are fed coffee beans which are picked out of their poo when it pops out the other end. Are you listening, Vicky? A gut reaction inside the elephant creates what the founder of Black Ivory Coffee calls the coffee's unique taste. When an elephant eats coffee, its stomach acids breaks down the protein found in coffee, which is a key factor to its bitterness, says Blake Dinkin, a 42-year-old Canadian who has spent just under £190,000 developing the coffee. You end up with a cup that's very smooth without the bitterness of a regular coffee. My theory is that a natural fermentation process takes place in the elephant's gut that imparts flavours you wouldn't get from other coffees. The result is reported to be similar to in civet coffee or Kopi Luwak, another hugely expensive variety extracted from the excrement of a weasel-like civet. But the elephant's massive stomach provides a bonus. At the jungle retreat where the herd is kept, conservationists were initially skeptical about the idea, with initial thought was about the caffeine making the elephants wired on it and addicted to coffee. John Roberts, director of elephants at the Golden Triangle Asian Elephant Foundation, a refuge for rescued elephants, said, "But as far as we can tell, there is definitely no harm to the elephants. It's now earned 80% of the coffee total sales, which go towards the herd's healthcare. It is thought that it costs £625 a month to keep an elephant. And it's not cheap. A serving of the Black Ivory coffee costs around £31 per cup, yes, which makes it among the priciest in the world.
The question is it our cup or their cup?
It's probably their little cup,
tiny cup.
Yeah. Which makes it among the priciest in the world. For now, only the wealthy and the well-travelled have access to the cuppa, which was launched last month at a few luxury hotels in remote corners of the world. Now, Neil, would you pay, or would you sample?
I'd sample, yeah. I mean, well, the common thing about an elephant is it doesn't fully digest its food. It's a well-known fact.
That never does.
Yeah, and you can actually drink the juice out of its poo because it's that full of nutrients.
Could have said that before I was drinking.
It's one of the things that are taught to soldiers now to, survive.
Maxwell asked.
I've got a couple of them on here.
Have you?
Yeah.
One lump or poo.
Lee said toffee tastes like elephant's poo anyway. I would like to know how he knows it tastes like elephant's poo. You're supposed to drink the moisture, Lee, not eat the poo.
I've drank and ate worse than that anyway. So, yeah, that wouldn't bother me.
Right, well, there you go. Yeah. So you never know. It could be in Starbucks any time now.
Jumbo cuppa.
Yeah. Right, they say when art imitates life, okay? That's the popular saying. But could it be when life imitates art? Here are two examples. The first one's not very nice. You have probably seen the Planet of the Apes movies, both old and new versions. But have you ever wondered if such a scenario were possible? Could apes and chimps somehow acquire enough intelligence to challenge man's domination of the planet? Science has made major breakthroughs in drug research and transplant technology by experimenting on chimeras. Is that right? What was the word? Chimeras. Chimera. Oh, yeah. That. Chimeras, that's it. Human animal embryo hybrids. Okay. But these seemingly noble goals may be covering up a much more nefarious purpose to create half-human, half-ape super soldiers, paving the way for a real-life Planet of the Apes showdown. Jesse Ventura and his team stormed the Yerkes Primate Research Centre, hidden in the backwoods of Georgia, to find out the truth about humansies who may already be walking the earth. Originally aired December the 10th, 2012, and available on YouTube. It's obvious the source for this was pretty bad. Manimal or not, animal testing should be banned. So, Andy said Ventura is a nut.
Yeah,
Everyone's got an opinion.
I watched the show.
Did you?
And he didn't exactly storm the place.
No.
He didn't actually go in at all. All the information was coming out from other people.
Yeah.
They said, well, one person said that they'd actually done this, that it implanted human sperm cells into a female chimp, and when they thought about it after the animal was born, they actually killed it. Because they thought about the dangers of it. But from everything people were saying on there, they actually did it again.
Really? Hi, Nita.
I mean, they were looking at things. They were being told that they got pigs with human blood in them.
I don't think that's right.
And they got sheep that are growing human livers.
Right, okay, let's change the subject on that one. Here's another case of when art imitates life. When there's no more room in hell, the dead will walk the earth. That's the tagline from Georgia Romero's Dawn of the Dead. It speaks of a battered and bleak vision of humanity. The quote is derived from a Haitian voodoo religion called Santeria. Practitioners of voodoo have long believed the sorcerers are responsible for reanimating the dead. But does the Bible predict the zombies apocalypse? The zombie apocalypse seems to show up in religious texts that can make you think, what the? Sorry, you're trying to... Santeria. Is that what you were saying? Trying to tell me how to pronounce it? Right. Although most of these references don't point to an exact apocalyptic origin, they frequently make mention of a horrific clashes with the undead. The public is, in particular, is full of examples... Sorry, the Bible in particular is full of examples of illustrations of being reanimated, of people being reanimated. Let's not forget that the entire New Testament is about Jesus, a man who died and then came back to life. Okay. Oh my God, he's early.
Well, we'll come back to that then.
We'll come back to that. Hello.
Hey, Susan, it's Mark Anthony.
Hi, you're early. But that's not a problem.
How early am I early?
Only a few minutes. It's not a problem.
Oh, okay. I was like, I thought this was the right...
Good evening, Mark.
Well, good evening, good afternoon.
Right, let me just
Yeah.
introduce you to those that are in the chat room, okay? Ladies and
no
gentlemen, I'd like to introduce you to Mr. Mark Anthony, the psychic lawyer. Good evening, Mark.
Good evening, Suzanne, and good evening to all my friends on the other side of the big pond.
So, how are you this evening?
I'm doing great. I live here in East Coast Central Florida, so I'm not going to tell you what the weather's like because I don't want anybody sending me hate mail.
Yeah, he kind of did that the other day and said it was 80 degrees.
Yes, yes. So,
while we were -1.
I don't know. So, obviously you've got a busy day ahead of you today. I believe you've got a demonstration tonight, haven't you?
Yes.
But how has the 12-12-12 been for you today?
You know, I was waiting for something to happen, and then I suddenly realized it's just another day. So I found a video of Paul McCartney in concert singing "It's Just Another Day" on Facebook, and a lot of people are saying like, "Well, thank you," and I don't really worry too much about things like that because I believe that every day has a mystical significance, and every day is significant.
Well, let's hope you'll be playing it next week when the world's supposed to be ending.
Yeah, I'm not too worried about that either. I've studied enough archaeology to know that the Mayan calendar is a 5,000 some odd year cycle, and it's just clicking up to year 0 so that a new cycle begins. There's no more significance to that than the fact that New Year's Eve is December 31st, and 2013 starts on a Tuesday this year. Okay. So I don't really get too worried about that. I know there's a lot of people that are in a hissy fit about that, but I remember reading something that the Catholic Church thought the world was going to end in the year 1000 AD. Well, that's 1,012 years ago, and so far we're still here. And so are they.
Well, in the hub with us tonight, we have my husband Steve, who was with me the other night, and obviously, and we also have a fellow medium, Mr. Neil Munnelly.
Hi,
Hello.
Mark. Hi, Mark.
So hopefully you can hear everybody okay. You won't hear them in the chat room, but if they have any questions, they're more than welcome to flash them up, and I will try and relay them to you if I don't miss them.
Or they can ring us up and ask themselves.
Yes, definitely. Mark is also here to do a reading later on before he finishes, so hopefully whoever rings up when I give the go-ahead will get a free reading, a little taster from Mark Anthony, so that would be great. So Mark, you're a lawyer.
Yes.
So how does this play with your medium role?
It's a lot of people think that the two careers are completely opposite, like they're somehow diametrically opposed. And what I've found, and my fellow mediums, and especially the one with you, can chime in on this. It's all about evidence. As a lawyer, what I do is I present evidence in court to a judge or to a jury, whoever is the decision maker, depending on the type of case that it is. And to a client receiving a reading, my job is to present evidence from the other side, which must be verifiable. So to me, both jobs are about evidence, and both jobs are about helping people. As a lawyer, I help people with their legal problems. Mm-hmm. As a medium, I help them cope with the loss of a loved one, because once they understand that the person they loved didn't just disintegrate into nothingness, but rather who and what they are lives on, then I have seen how this has helped people cope with death.
Mm-hmm. We do need to cope with death, I must admit.
Unfortunately.
I myself I'm a culprit of that as well, unfortunately. But going on to your lawyer work, we have a question for you in the chat room. As a lawyer, do you find it difficult if you know your client is guilty?
I don't mean to laugh when I get that question, because it's a very good question. But a lawyer that, especially one in criminal offense like myself, a lawyer that only represents innocent people is going to be out of business pretty quick.
Yeah, I can understand that.
So my job as an attorney is it's not to validate or to condone the criminal behavior of somebody, but to protect their rights under the U.S. Constitution. So that's why in a lot of situations, and I'm not sure how it is in the UK, I don't know if you have a right to remain silent. In other words, do you have to take the witness stand in a criminal case? Whereas in the U.S., you do not. You have a constitutionally protected right not to take the witness stand. And so if you know that your client's going to lie, or you know that your client might say something that the jury really shouldn't hear, then you just don't put him or her on the stand. And what I do is you attack the evidence that the state is presenting, because it's the state is the one that's bringing the case. And if they cannot satisfy the evidentiary requirements of the, in other words, the elements of that crime, then under our system of justice, both here and in the UK, the person goes free.
Right, okay. Sorry about that. My family don't realise when I'm on the show, unfortunately. I hope everybody got that. Sorry, that just threw me off then. So, God, I hate my family when they ring like that. Sorry, Mark. That's just
let's send them love and light. So basically, what it comes down to is everyone's got a family, and they're going to drive you nuts.
Yeah, definitely.
But we love them all the same, and and it's true. I mean, it's funny because you know how parents and those of us that have children may be guilty of the same. Oh, there they are again.
That's all right. I'll get Steve to take it. So it's all right. It's just my auntie. But as I say, this is it. They do come at the wrong times. But going back to yourself, how long have you actually been into this? You've been, obviously, from what I've read on your website, you have come from a long line of mediums and psychics.
Yes, I'm probably the only one that's done it in the professional capacity, but there's been people with psychic abilities, mediumship abilities on both my mother and my father's side of the family going back into the 1800s. And I would assume it goes back farther than that. And it's my belief that it's hereditary. I write about my family in my book, Never Letting Go, which is a guide on the journey through grief, and it helps people cope with the loss of a loved one. Mm-hmm. And one of the reasons I wrote Never Letting Go is after my mother died, not only was I devastated because, you know, it's mom, but I noticed that I seemed to recover somewhat faster than a lot of people around me who'd lost loved ones, because I knew that life was everlasting. I could perceive her spirit and spirits of other people that I know who passed. And I thought, you know, I need to incorporate that into a guide on how to get through grief, because I think this can really be beneficial. When you look at the psychological manuals, they'll be like, okay, here's the 5 stages of grief, and first you'll have this, and you know, it's all very clinical. And then there's the some of the psychic stuff is so airy-fairy, granola chewing out there. I wanted to take my logical left brain thinking as a lawyer and combine it with my right brain spiritualism so that it's a practical way and a practical guide to get through grief.
Do you? No. Right, so how would you... I'll be honest with you. I've been grieving for 30 odd years. It's a long time. Would you say? It's a long time to grieve, 30 odd years, would you say? Or should I... Is it time for me to let go, or, like you say, never let go?
Well, the premise of the book is to let go of the sorrow and the pain, the shock and the trauma that's caused by the death. You must never let go of the love for the person who died, hence the title, Never Letting Go. No one can tell you, Suzanne, how you should grieve. No. There is no timetable. And what I've found and what I've seen is, you know, right after the death of a loved one, it's so overwhelming. And then you get like these waves of grief. You think you'll be doing fine, then all of a sudden something hits you and it just triggers this outpouring of sadness. And then when you think you've cried it all out or worked through it, it's like it reloads. And it's like, good Lord, how long is this going to go on? And what happens is over time, the waves of grief become less frequent and pretty much less intense. That doesn't mean they go away. What it means is stability returns to your life and a new normal emerges. You may not like the new normal, but that's what you have to deal with. And coming up on the holidays, like right now, I believe we're going through the 8 days of Hanukkah now, and there's a lot of people that are facing Hanukkah without a loved one. For people, I was raised Catholic. You know, we're facing Christmas without mom again, and this is very painful for people. This time of year is supposed to be all joyous and happy, but all too often, the holidays can remind us of what we don't have what we think we are not and who we no longer have in our lives. And that's why it's even more important to learn how to function, how to cope with our grief, and how to never let go of the love for the person who died.
Okay. We've got some questions in the chat room. There's a lot of trying to get around the lawyer and the psychic side here, so please understand that. We've got one that's Andy 707 has got a bit of a problem here. He said, I do feel that some mediums use, hold on, it's just jumped up, use personal loss and trauma to hook into the person. He said, how do you feel about when people say things like that, and use this sort of thing? There are mediums that do that. I'm not saying you do, but there's that one. The other one is from Nigel. He said, I can't see how being a lawyer and a spiritual person can work together. He said solicitors make money from other people's problems technically, and that this how does Mark work around this?
The question is, how did Gandhi work around it? You know, right. Gandhi was an attorney.
Okay.
Member of the Queen's Bench.
Uh-huh.
In the Gospels, Mark, okay, was a lawyer. And see, what happens is a lot of people, and with all due respect to Nigel, a lot of people think that because you're a lawyer, you're a vampiric, blood-sucking monster with that's a sociopath with no conscience. And the fact of the matter is, a lot of lawyers, myself included, are good people who care about other people, and what we do is we help them from being pushed around and bullied, wrongfully accused, or if they are accused rightfully, to get the fairest treatment possible. Uh-huh. And there's nothing wrong with being spiritual and being a lawyer. I mean, let's face it, the legal system has gotten a bad reputation for good reason, because a lot of lawyers, a lot of aggressive personalities are attracted to the practice of law. So, you know, when you're the one holding the light in the darkness, a lot of times it's not easy, because people think because you're spiritual and you're sensitive that you're somehow weak. And people that go up against me in court find pretty quickly that is certainly not the case. So the fact that I like to help people and have taken a left-brained logical career, and the fact that I was born a medium, which is a very emotional and right-brain activity, to me, the two professions complement each other, because I use my intuitive abilities in court and in the legal system, and I take my skepticism and my logic and my need for evidence and apply it to my work as a medium.
Right. And as a medium, obviously, how long have you been doing this professionally for?
As a medium?
Yeah.
Well, I've been a medium my whole life, but as far as doing it in the capacity that I've been doing it for about pretty much the last decade. I mean, it's like, you know, I grew up with psychic parents. I grew up in a household where you saw spirits. So, you know, there's really no clear line of demarcation. And, you know, when I first started doing readings, which is some time ago, all of a sudden the demand for my services as a medium just skyrocketed. So I do a lot of that now, and it's all about healing. It's all about healing. And what I've found, and you know, I'd like to get back to the point Nigel made. What happens, and if you go to my website, neverlettinggo.com, you may want to look at the author video there, because what I do is I talk about a few incidents where being a lawyer and a medium have merged. What I've found is a lot of my criminal clients have in their background an unresolved death. And let's face it, a lot of people from less than stable backgrounds, if let's say a young man's, you know, he's like 8 years old and his mother dies or his father dies, and instead of going to grief counseling and dealing with it, it's like, hey, don't worry about it, dude. Don't worry about it. Don't think about it. And then as they get older, they have this anger and this pain, so they begin to drink, and then they begin to do drugs. And so what happens is that the grief leads to crime and criminal behaviors, impulsive behaviors, alcoholism. It leads into all these self-destructive and predatorial behaviors. So the grief leads to crime, which then leads to more grief. Now, as a lawyer, I get them in my office because they're committing the crimes. And when I can see that there's a spirit around them. Now, if somebody comes to me for a legal problem, that does not mean I'm going to do a reading on them, because that's not what they're there for. I don't believe in thrusting or reading upon somebody. They need to come to me in that capacity. But if I can intuitively understand that and then say, hey, have you had a death? Yes. Well, then I get them into counseling. I try to get them into programs that are going to get them off the addictive and predatorial behaviors, because you've got to break the cycle. So I use my gifts in tandem. As a medium, I pick up on that, and as a lawyer, I know how to get them into the programs that are designed to help them. Now, you can only do so much for a person. That person, he or she, has to make the decision to stop taking drugs, stealing things, and acting out. But my job is at least to point them in the right direction. What you do in life is your decision, but sometimes there are people along the way that can at least influence you to hopefully make the right decision.
So you obviously studied part of your law degree in Oxford, in England, I believe.
I received my law degree in the United States at Mercer University, which included a study of law at Oxford. And let me tell you something. I love the UK. I loved Oxford. I love England. I love Wales. I love Scotland. I love the people over there. My father's family is of English and actually Scottish descent. And they've been over here for quite some time. So for me, it's kind of like when I go to England, I feel like I'm hanging out with my cousins.
You still there? Oh.
Yes.
Oh, sorry. You seem to brush off a bit. But you've also studied at the Arthur Findlay College. Did you do that at the same time whilst you was here at Oxford?
No. Arthur Findlay was separate.
Right.
And that's sort of Hogwarts for psychics. And,
I've heard of a couple of people that have been there. What's it actually like? What's your opinion of it, and would you recommend it?
Yes, I would. I wouldn't recommend it if you don't have any ability and you think you're going to go there and become a psychic. If you have ability, that's where you go to learn how to hone it. It's like being athletically inclined. I mean, you might be a good tennis player, but you won't be a great tennis player unless you have proper training. And I think Arthur Findlay is very good about that. I think Arthur Findlay, he's since passed several decades ago, was just an incredible man. And in metaphysical history, certainly one of the shining stars.
Right, we've had a couple of more questions. Right, Andy707 said, if you had to give one up, which would it be, the law or the mediumship?
The law.
The law, okay. Very decisive there.
Well, but it is. I was born a medium, and this is a calling. And I was raised in a Catholic environment, but my mom was really cool because even though she was, a very devout Catholic, she would read about Buddhism and Hinduism, and I mean, she met Shirley MacLaine, and she would go to these seminars and learn how to meditate. So I mean, Mom was kind of a combination of like Joan Collins, Shirley MacLaine, Lucille Ball, Ginger Rogers. I mean, it was just like, it was really cool, having her as a mother. And I wanted to be a Catholic priest because as I was growing up, I felt this intense draw to the spiritual. But as I got older, I decided it was not for me because it was too confining and too limiting in many ways. But that's always been there. I've always felt this pull. And now that as I've gotten older, I just feel that this is what I need to be doing to help people. So, and I don't want to be demeaning to the legal profession.
No.
Because it can be, and I emphasize can, and rather it should be a very noble and honorable profession, but you're not born a lawyer.
No.
That's a skill you acquire. You're born a medium, and not everybody is a medium. And so for me, that would be, I can't turn my back on this.
No, obviously. The other question I need to ask you is, do you only follow the procedural faculties after a case, or do you offer spiritual advice also?
It depends on the situation.
Right.
Some people don't want to hear it. Other people do. If you read my book, Never Letting Go, there's a number of accounts in there where I address that very question. And, I see people. It's interesting because I've had a lot of clients say to me, "You're not like any lawyer I've ever met." And I go, "How so?" They go, "You're different somehow." They said, "You really seem like you do care. And it seems like you do understand." And I had this one guy, he was in the Delta Force, which is a U.S. Special Forces unit. It's similar to the SAS in the UK. And he kept getting in all this trouble, these explosive behaviors. And this guy was huge. I mean, his arms were like, 20 inches. I mean, he was like, Captain America walking in. And all the girls were like, "Oh, look at this guy." And so he'd come in, and I was talking to him, and I started feeling all this pain and all this, unresolved grief. And I'll never forget, I said, "Well, you almost beat up 3 police officers." And I said, "Well, what kind of medications are you on?" He said, "I'm on 2 sleeping pills, 3 mood stabilizers, 4 painkillers." It was a couple other things. I go, "Oh my God." So I made a list of all this stuff, and he had about half a dozen doctors. Mm-hmm. And apparently not any one doctor was in control, and none of the doctors knew what the other ones were prescribing. So I talked to the Department of Veterans Affairs, and one of their doctors, they said, "He's on what? Oh my God, he shouldn't be on all those medications." So they put him on 1 sleeping pill, 1 mood stabilizer, 1 painkiller, 1 anti-inflammatory, and all of a sudden his behavior went from being this like crazy guy to, very, very controlled and very pleasant. And we were talking one time about his grief and some of the things that he had to do. And I'll never forget, he looked up at me and he said real calmly, he goes, "I feel I can tell you things I've never told anybody else." He goes, "You seem to understand people on a very visceral level." Now, I didn't know if he was complimenting me or going to come across the table and gut me like a chicken. Okay. But I think the former, because he got it in my hand and he left.
Your book that you mentioned, Never Letting Go, it does have humour in it, doesn't it, from what I've seen? It does incorporate a lot of humour in the book as well.
Yes, because great subject. And you have to...
You keep dying on me, Mark.
We'll see.
Sorry.
No pun intended.
No.
Well, you have to have humor because it's a very grave subject when you're talking about death.
Yeah.
And, I like to keep things, when possible, upbeat. When I give my gallery readings, if people want to go to my website, neverlettinggo.com, and look at the video series, I like to keep people upbeat. I've had a lot of people say that at my platform work, we call them gallery readings over here, but it's the same thing, platform podium work. And they said, "Boy, I haven't laughed that hard since before, my son died." And it's not that I'm making fun of anybody or making, unnecessary jokes, but the fact of the matter is a lot of the people that come through in readings say funny things. I was doing a reading, and there's this little old lady, she's sweet as pie, and she'd been married to her husband Herb for like 62 years, and Herb had died, and he came through, and I'm given all this evidence, and she's crying into this handkerchief, and she's going, "But I need to know it's really him." And at this point, I didn't know what else I could do, so I said, "Well, why don't you ask Herb a question?" And sometimes spirits answer questions, and sometimes they don't. And she said, What did he give me? No, she goes, "What did I give him for his last birthday before he died?" And the answer comes through, and I said, "A headache." And she looks up and she goes, "Why, that son of a..." And I go, "Ma'am." And she goes, "Now I know it's him." And she's carrying on. And what it was is Herb used to tease her all the time. And then she goes, "That's just like him. I'm here suffering. He's in heaven making jokes." And I mean, and the crowd was laughing hysterically. And I was trying to be very professional, but I mean, I just lost it. I mean, I was laughing, and she was so grateful. She said, "That's the thing I miss the most about Herb." She goes, "Yeah, he would really make me angry with his little comments." She said, "But you know, he always made me smile." And did it again from the other side. So humor is a very important thing. And when people go to the other side, they certainly seem to bring their sense of humor with them.
You mentioned my husband's back now.
Yes,
I hate to think what the conversation was about.
Yeah, sorry about that, Mark. As you say, family. I was remembering what you told us the other day about when you went down to that murder scene, and you actually saw the victim.
Hello, he's gone again.
Are you there?
Yeah.
Can you imagine what it must have been like when Churchill and Roosevelt were on the phone?
Yeah, definitely. So, do you remember that conversation we had when you said about this murder victim? Do you want to?
Yeah, I can't remember the exact circumstances, but the gentleman that had been murdered had been shot in the head, and you went down to the scene and you told the police about it, and you ended up being a suspect.
Well, what happened was, I got to my office and my secretary was hysterical, crying, and I go, "What's wrong?" And my husband he'd been the witness to a murder. In other words, he was working for these people at their house, and then next door he saw these two men running through the front yard, and one of them shot the other one in the head. Well, first he thought they were playing paintball until he saw the guy's head, like literally, I'll spare the details. So my first thought, being a suspicious criminal defense lawyer, is this was an affluent, wealthy neighborhood, and things like that really don't happen in those neighborhoods. I mean, things like that do, but, and I figured this could be a contract hit. So I don't want his name plastered all over the newspaper to protect him and his family. So we get to the scene. There's probably about 2 to 3 dozen police officers all over the place. And when we get there, I start shaking, and I started sweating. And my secretary looks at me and she goes, "Uh-oh, you're doing that thing you do, aren't you?" And I go, "Yeah." And I could see this young man's spirit running and running and running. He was like still running, and he came right up to me because apparently he realized that I could see him. And I told him, "You have been killed and you have to let go." And his image sort of pixelated. And then, I stopped sweating. So I figured, let me act like a lawyer. And so I go up where my secretary and her husband are, and there's a police officer and a detective speaking with them. So I said, "Well, was the victim a Hispanic male, about 5'10", olive complexion, wearing like khaki camouflage clothing?" And the detective looks at me, and the cop's staring at me, and they go, "How do you know what the victim looked like? The body has already been secured." And all of a sudden I realized, oh my God, now I'm the focal point of the murder investigation. And, I know cops, and I knew the looks on their faces. And all of a sudden my secretary stepped right in between. She goes, "Well, my husband, he told us what the murder suspect looked like driving over in Mark's car, and he told us while we were on the cell phone." And go, "Oh, okay." We walk away, and I'm like, "Oh my God." She goes, "Don't ever do that to me again." It was funny all at the same time, but I realized that nobody, in other words, the body had been secured by the police, and nobody other than her husband and I think one other gentleman who saw the murder take place, nobody knew what he looked like. And so when I started saying, "Oh, did he do this?" And so now, if I'm ever in that situation again, I know to be a bit more discreet. But what was really validating for me was 2 months later, I was out at breakfast, and I saw the newspaper, and there was pictures of 3 men on the front page of the paper, and one of them, it something
Mark,
about.
I'm gonna.
Yes.
Can I ring you back because you're really cutting out a bit now?
Okay.
I'll ring you back straight away. Okay. God, I don't know what's happening there, but it was all right at first. Let's try again. No, I can't get him at all. Hello?
Hello, back.
All
How's that?
right. Sorry about that, but you was really fading in and out. We could hardly catch up with you there, to be honest with you.
Well, you know, we are talking via computer transatlantic, and it's probably bouncing off half a dozen satellites, so, you know, hey.
And talking about that, when it comes to readings, I did ask you a question about how can you read somebody over the internet, and you gave me a very good answer.
Well, think about what we're doing right now. My brain is deciding it needs to communicate with you. So my brain is sending an electrical impulse to my lungs, which is telling my lungs to exhale air so that the air vibrate, and it's telling my vocal cords to expand, contract, and vibrate. So now a vibration is coming out of my mouth. It is hitting a microphone on this headset, causing a metal plate to vibrate, which now causes that vibration to be translated into electrical impulses, which go into my computer through fiber optic cables into a telephone network that then goes to a giant antenna, which gets beamed up to a satellite by radio waves. Then it hits that satellite, which hits another satellite, which is another satellite, which is another satellite, which is another satellite, which then beams radio waves down to a collection point, probably somewhere in southern England, into a giant antenna, which takes those impulses, turns them into electronic signals, which then go through a internet network in the UK to come popping out of your speaker so that a vibration hits your eardrum, making your eardrum vibrate, which causes the stapes bones to hit the 8th cranial nerve, ergo sending electrical impulses into your brain to translate them into recognizable concepts. And we don't even think about this because we do it all the time, and we don't think of it as being miraculous or mystical. So what is it that a spirit does? A spirit is energy, because energy is neither created nor destroyed, only transferred. We know this from quantum physics. Mm-hmm. So when the energy of a person leaves that person's body, it goes to a higher frequency. So what a spirit does is he or she slows their frequency, vibrates intelligence or electrical impulses to me, which go into my brain, and those impulses then get translated into recognizable concepts. That to me sounds a lot easier than going through all these contraptions, devices, satellites, miles of wire and radio waves so that we can talk in real time halfway across the world. So why can't a spirit do that? I mean, we're talking about a human-made creation, aka the internet, versus power of God.
Right. And on that note, would you like to give a reading to somebody?
Sure.
Steve said he would be interested in a reading, wouldn't you, Steve?
Oh yeah, definitely.
You're gonna have to come closer. I need to hear you. I
He
need
needs
to hear you.
you.
Pass it over.
Okay.
Yeah, I've never actually had a reading, a proper reading from anybody. Neil keeps threatening telling me to do it myself.
Okay. 2, 3, 4. Wow, you got 4 people around you that would like to talk, but we're going to focus on one. Okay, I'm getting a woman coming through, and I feel her on a higher level. When I say higher level, that means generationally. Could be the mother, could be the grandmother level. Let me give you what I'm getting from her. A lot of involvement in the throat. Okay, this could either be thyroid or this could be lymph glands, but I feel on both sides of the throat, I feel a lot of pain, a lot of pressure. I'm getting pain and pressure in my head, and I'm feeling a draining sensation going throughout my body, which would indicate that her passing took some time, and that the draining sensation would be something along the lines of either like cancer or tuberculosis. Is one of those diseases or ailments that makes you very, very thin. Also, part of her physical problems, she was feeling them in her feet. Could be fluid retention and also a cold sensation in her feet. Okay, so a lot of problems with circulation in her extremities. This poor lady was quite ill. I mean, I'm feeling problems in my back. It's like this whole system-wide type of ailments. And because she was in so much discomfort and pain, I see her blinking. Now, the blinking means one of two things. That either means she was on pain medication or lapsing into dementia. I think in this case, that's more pain medication, because you know how when you take painkillers and you kind of are struggling to maintain your focus. I'm also feeling a lot of pain in the lower abdomen, like in the liver areas. Any of this making sense to you?
It started to.
It started right, and then you seemed to go to somebody else.
Some of it could have affected me, actually. So.
Yeah, I mean, it's...
Makes sense.
I mean, the thyroid bit made sense. And then
Okay.
And then you went on to cancer, which
No. I
no.
said the type of disease like cancer,
like
where you
cancer.
get very thin prior to passing.
Right.
Different causes of death have a similar sensation to me. All right,
Right.
so the woman with the thyroid condition, was she getting thin?
Yes.
Okay, that's why I said that it's a disease like cancer.
Right.
You got to realize, in mediumistic contact, I receive sensations so that, let's say, like lungs filling up with fluid could be drowning, but it could also be pneumonia. It's a similar sensation. So that's why the throat involvement is significant and the getting very, very thin. What about the circulation issues in hand and feet?
I think she did.
She did a little bit, but not to a great degree.
Okay, but she had it, and she's telling me that she had it. Okay, now, hold on. There are 3 women, I'm not saying over there, but associated with her. I don't know if she had 3 sisters or 3 daughters, but there's 3 women that are associated with her. Does this make sense? If it doesn't, it doesn't.
No, not really.
Okay, all right. Now, this woman feels like she is on the mother level, but the difficulty there is that all grandmothers are also mothers, and many mothers are also grandmothers. Okay, but this one's feeling very grandmotherly. Does this make sense?
Yes.
Okay, is this your grandmother?
It sounds like her, yes.
Okay, all right. Let's see what else she wants to tell me. Okay, she's getting back to the eyesight. There was something going on with her eyesight. It's either the pain medication or her eyesight she had problems with for quite some time. Does that make sense?
Yeah, she wore glasses.
Okay, hold on. Interesting. She seemed to be very involved with you when you were growing up, or at least she was around. Because I see her, she kind of stressed the importance of getting outside, getting some exercise. She was a very active woman and very busy all of her life, and it seems to me that she never really had a whole lot of time for herself. I just see a very motivated life. And I also get the feeling that there was some issue about driving, like she didn't drive or didn't like driving, but there was some issue about driving. Does this make sense to you?
Yeah, I mean, she was active in her younger days, not so much when she was older.
Okay, what about the driving?
She didn't drive.
She didn't drive. Okay, so there's the issue with the driving. Okay, let's see if she's got a message for you. First off, it's interesting. You know what Spätzle is? That real heavy, those heavy German noodles?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, is there an English equivalent to that, like this heavy noodle dish?
Pretzels.
Like egg noodles or some types of noodles? Because she's talking about some type of dish she made either use a lot of dough or heavy noodles.
Nothing springs to mind.
Okay, make a note of that because that's something that's probably going to make sense later on. All right, because a lot of things that come through don't make sense right away. All right, let's see what the message is that she has for you. Interesting. Hold on. She keeps throwing stuff at me. She have a little dog about the size of a poodle.
Yeah.
Okay, because I'm getting this little dog that was like following her constantly. Okay, still is. Okay. And the poor dog, it's just like there's like this kind of mangy quality to the dog. I mean, some people like primp and fluff their dogs. This one not so much, which the dog actually appreciated. Hold on, let me see what she's got to say for you. She says you're not taking good care with your teeth. There's something going on with your teeth because she's indicating there's this pain, and she says that the type of stuff that you're eating is not so good. Okay, and that you have a tendency to have erratic eating habits, like you're not eating like 3 meals or whatever you're supposed to be doing a day. It's like you're kind of grazing throughout the day. And she goes that this is beginning to cause you some problems. Also, she says that your sodium content, your use of salt is quite high, and that you might have some blood pressure issues. Now, I am not diagnosing or prescribing. I'm merely conveying information. So I'm not telling you to cut back on your salt or to use more of it or what to eat. You clear that with your doctor. But these are the things that she's telling me about you. Does any of that make sense?
That is actually wrong. I mean, I do eat throughout the day, but my salt content is, if anything, it's low.
Your brother
It's
isn't.
My brother doesn't. He puts too much salt on, but I don't use a lot of salt.
All right, your brother is the one that's using too much salt?
Yeah.
Always has done.
Okay, so give that to him. Okay. All right. Do you have a question for her?
Television.
Yeah, I mean, before she went, we always used to say that when she goes, can she come back and let us know what's there's something on the other side. And after she went, for the next 6 weeks, for some reason our TV kept turning over while we were watching it. And we were nowhere near the remote. So was that her?
Hold on. Did it happen more in the early evening, like around 5 o'clock?
Yeah.
Hello.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely that was her. Okay, because spirits can interfere with electrical fields, and you asked her, do something, give us a sign, and that's what she was doing. It also seems that there may have been an irregularity with the telephone as well, because I keep seeing a telephone being held up to an ear, and it's like there's nobody there.
We did for a while.
Yeah. But I wouldn't necessarily connect it around the same time.
No, I can't remember. It's been a while.
Yeah.
Was that after you passed?
It has happened in the past, yeah.
Okay, it happened after she crossed to the other side. Okay, well, why is she telling me this if this didn't happen? Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's the TV and the phone did not have to happen at the same time. There's the TV, and now she's talking about the phone. Okay, so what she's telling you is that she's given you a lot of sign. All right, there's something about a bell. Do you have a doorbell that just like rings or like ding ding and there's like nobody there? Because but there's something about a bell that she's talking about.
Yeah, for some unknown reason, I don't know why, but whenever they ring the doorbell across the road, she reckons it doesn't work, but our doorbell rings.
And I would know this how? Okay, I mean, I'm on the other side of the Atlantic. You've never met, right?
Yeah, because she's like, my doorbell doesn't work.
I don't think she's got the receiver across the road, but we have.
Yeah. So what's going on is your granny's around you quite a bit, and actually, she almost has a bit of a mischievous personality. I could just see her getting the biggest thrill out of doing these type of things. Okay, and this woman, I'll tell you what, she had a hard life. She worked her fingers to the bone, but she appreciated everybody in her life, and she appreciated every day that she was here. And when this thyroid illness and this thinning disease fell upon her, she bore it as well as anybody possibly could until she couldn't struggle against it anymore. And what she wants you to know is that make the most out of every second in your life. Okay? She says, because it really does matter. And she says somebody's always looking. And what she means by that is the other side is always paying attention. She said, and that's what she likes about you. You are making the most of your life. You're engaging in things that you're interested in. You're not having an existence. You're actually having a life. And she says, even though she loved everybody in her life, a lot of times she felt she was having more of an existence than a life. Okay? But she appreciates what you're doing. Also, Steven. Who's Steven?
That's my husband.
That's me.
That's you. Okay. Duh. 'Cause sometimes I'm so thick. Okay. So she's going on about Steve. All right. So that's obviously you. Then there's like a Frank or a Francis that she's talking about. A Frank or a Francis.
Frank or Francis?
Yeah, and the reason that I'm saying Frank or Francis is I'm seeing an image of a statue of Saint Francis, who's the patron saint of animals and very, very compassionate. So that's how I get like Frank or Francis, but it could be a reference to Saint Francis or to like having a good connection with animals. So I'm getting Saint.
He knows a Frank.
There is a Frank there.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. All right. Is he somehow connected with her too?
It would have been her brother-in-law.
Okay. All right. Is he over there or over here?
I'm not sure. I haven't seen that side of the family for a long time.
Okay. I tend to think he might be over there because she's making a big deal about Francis. Okay. So there you have it. Question, are you planning a trip to Florida or to some place where there's a lot of oranges? Because I'm seeing oranges and orange trees. Now, maybe that's Spain, but usually when I see oranges, that means Florida, California, or somebody has a potassium issue.
I don't know if they've got them in Romania.
But no, we're not going to any of those places.
We're going to Romania next year.
I don't think they grow oranges in Romania.
Oh, we didn't see any while we were there.
No, didn't see any.
Okay. Well, for whatever reason, I'm seeing oranges. Do oranges have a significance to you?
No.
Okay. You may want to get your potassium checked. Okay.
Okay. Right. Well, that's quite good, isn't it?
My brother-in-law in the chat room has asked me to ask you, does she know who the man is that's in the house?
Yeah, we feel as though there's somebody here.
We know there's a male spirit here. He's been here ever since we first moved in.
Charlie.
Right, okay.
Charles or Charlie came right across.
Right.
And it's funny because I see Charles, you know those Charles potato chips?
Yeah.
So I don't know if she's talking about potato chips, but yeah, I get like Charlie, Charles, and is there an upstairs? Because I keep seeing like these stairs, and it feels like the activity is higher up in the house.
Right. Okay.
Okay.
And it doesn't feel malevolent at all. And what it is, it's not like he's imprisoned or stuck there. He just likes popping in now and again.
Yeah, she could be pulling your leg there as well.
Why?
Well, when we were kids, if the door opened, it was always, it's Charlie.
Seriously?
Yeah,
she would do that.
Yeah, Charlie was always the ghost that opened the door when no one was there. So, I mean,
it's a self-fulfilling prophet. Now you move into a house that's haunted by a guy named Charlie.
But there's a significance about this spirit, and I really don't understand why. So maybe we'll get some more information sometime.
Yeah, there's something about the color brown, like a brown derby or something. I mean, that's what I mean, like that type of brown.
Okay.
I don't know if you like wore a lot of brown or you had decorate with a lot of brown in the house, but there's something about the color brown that seems to be very significant to this entity.
Okay, so we'll have to keep a lookout for what's going on there. Right, so have you finished with Steve?
Yes.
Right, okay.
Thanks for that, Mark.
Thank you very much for that.
No problem. Oh, and you know what? And I want to say this to the listeners: when you go for a reading with a medium and they start saying about health issues, now the health issue about the sodium seemed to apply more to your brother than it does to you. And but what I want to say is, always follow the advice of your doctor. When a medium or a psychic tells you, "Oh, do this, do that," always follow the advice of your doctor first, because the issue is sodium. Now, maybe that means Steve has too much, maybe it means too little. In what I was getting is the sodium is off the scale. Okay? Now, maybe off the scale means he uses so little of it you can't even detect it. Usually in the U.S., when you hear something off the scale, that means too much. Because spirits are never wrong. What might be wrong is the medium's interpretation. And that's why you've got to be careful, because let's say I tell Steve, oh, well, stop using sodium, and he stops doing sodium and then gets such low blood pressure he dies. Okay? It kills him. So always follow the advice of your doctor first.
Yeah, I mean, the sodium thing with my brother, I've seen him sit there with a fried egg and put so much salt on the yolk that you can't see it.
Yeah, it's like, have a little egg with your salt.
Yeah, definitely. So, are you? If somebody rings in, are you okay to do a quick one for them?
Yeah, we've got, about 10, 12 minutes or
okay.
so.
If anyone wants a quick reading from Mark, you can either call us on the Skype, ktpf.paranormal show, or you can ring us on 0844 414 3982. First person that calls will be able to get a reading from Mark live on air. So if you want to do that, there's not much time left before he goes. So if you want to do that, Skype, ktpf.paranormal show, or you can contact 0844 414 3982. So time's fleeting, so if anyone wants to have a quick reading, then Anita, if you're there, if you want to Skype us from America, not a problem. So as I say, you're working tonight, you're doing a demonstration tonight. Do you work predominantly in Florida then?
I go all over the country. I just returned from a tour of New England, where I spoke at Brown University, Harvard University, and then at a large bookstore. Prior to that, I was in Colorado at the Stanley Hotel at a paranormal conference. The Stanley's supposed to be one of the most haunted hotels in the United States, and it was the scene of the Stephen King movie, The Shining. So the Jack Nicholson jokes about "here's Johnny," they were flying all over the place, and it was real interesting because a lot of the ghost hunters from television were there, and we were doing paranormal investigations and that. And it's interesting to see all the equipment set up and all this. And I don't need the equipment to talk to the spirits, but it was interesting to see people with technical apparatus trying to make a connection. And then before that, I was in Pennsylvania and Philadelphia and Pittsburgh. So I've been traveling around the U.S. quite a bit, and I do public presentations, lectures, and readings. Right. So I'm pretty much nationwide, and Never Letting Go is on sale everywhere English is spoken.
Yes, it's on Amazon. I've noticed it on Amazon.
I've been asked to ask you, what do you know about disclosing a home that is haunted?
Yes.
I never really worry about that, but I know a lot of people like to burn sage, or they burn white candles, and they pray. I think prayer raises vibrational frequency, and I know a lot of mediums or people that have mediumistic ability that come to me and go, "Oh my God, the spirits are around me and they're scaring me." It's like, well, tell them to leave, and they're like, "Huh? Yeah, tell them to leave." Tell them, don't disturb me now. So when you have an entity like that, be respectful and say, you need to transition into the light. Now, I don't want to get all religious, but some people like to do this. They ask God, they say a prayer asking God to send forth the Archangel Michael and his band of mercy to escort the spirit into the light for his or her own good. and it's simple.
Okay.
And see, right now we need to escort that telephone into the light.
Need to escort. It's for you this time, Mark. It's for you, so no good escorting it into the light. Are you there, John?
I'm here, yes.
Right, okay. We have John on the line
Do you
for
want to
you.
put it on- Here's the other one.
Hold on, let me just put him on loudspeaker. Oh, shut that off. Are you there, John? Right, good. Okay, can you hear him okay, Mark?
No, not really.
Right, okay. Try again, John.
Yeah, I'm not going to be able to do a reading like this because there's too much distortion, but I can take a question.
Right. Oh, okay. Let me see whether I can do it this way.
You realize as a medium, everything I do involves frequency.
Right, okay.
And so
Speak to
every
John.
time you add an additional distortion layer,
Right.
that's not going to work.
Right,
And
okay.
we're only coming up on we're only got a couple minutes left, so it'd be better maybe if we just asked a question.
Right, okay. Do you want to ask a question, John? Because due to the frequency, you can't do it. Okay. Oh, right. Okay, then. Don't worry about it, John. Bye. Right, he said he hasn't got a question, so...
Yeah, no, it's to do a reading, I need a clear transmission, and that's what I
Right.
tell people. Like a lot of times, I get people that got the dogs barking, the radio on, and it's
Yeah.
like, you've got to make sure that the environment is quiet, because you want to get the best reading possible.
Yeah, I understand that. Maybe you can Skype you.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, yeah, absolutely. If you go to my website, neverlettinggo.com, it'll tell you how to get a reading with me. And actually, I've done several readings for people in the UK via Skype, people from India, Singapore, Australia, Canada. I'll tell you, Australia seems to have a lot of people interested in spiritual contact. I know the UK does.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
I think the English-speaking world, I think we have a leg up on everybody else, because basically in the mid-1850s in the UK and then later in the US, that's kind of where spiritualism developed and was treated as a discipline and more of a science than as some type of, woohoo happen chance sort of thing.
Right. Okay. Well, time is fleeting, and I better let you go so you can get ready for this evening. I hope you have a good one, and thank you very much for your time.
Oh, it's my pleasure, and
All
God
right.
bless all of you.
Thank you, and hope you have a very nice Christmas. So happy holidays.
Have a Merry Christmas, or as I like to say, Merry Ramahana Kwanzmas, because then that kind of covers everybody.
Definitely. Well, thanks a lot, and I wish you all the best for 2013.
Thank you. Likewise. God bless.
Bye-bye.
Cheers, Mark.
Bye-bye. Cheers.
Well,
Well, there were parts of that reading was right.
your
and
nan had a
parts of-
thyroid.
She did, but she passed really quickly because she had an embolism.
Yes.
So she sort of went like that.
Yes.
So she didn't go slow, and the loss of weight wasn't really a disease. It was down to the thyroid.
It was down to the
she wasn't
thyroid.
eating.
Yes. So.
So part there, part not.
Yeah.
And
There was some other
And
thing.
Frank was
Our brother-in-law.
a brother-in-law, and probably the connection he said about animals and that. He was actually a ranger on Wimbledon Common.
So, and we have got a doorbell that's messing up at the moment.
We do, yes.
Yeah.
Happens quite often.
I have got some oranges downstairs, which I haven't bought for a while, but I've got some
Satsumas,
satsumas.
not oranges.
But, you know, perhaps
But
she's eaten
Nigel said he sent him a ball of orange light.
So,
And I look quite orange as well.
I hate to say this, but there was a lot of scepticism on the chat room. I didn't have asked any more questions because I weren't sure what was questions and what was not.
No, because
There was controversy in there.
they were having their own debate. But
They were. But saying that, they were also not really sure about him, was you,
I
really?
don't think it was controversy. I think it was proper questions that
It
could have been
was.
asked.
Oh,
you know.
yeah, but there was a lot of going on beforehand, I think, this,
There
and I
was-
think
I know
that
there was a
and-
big argument about whether energy can be destroyed or not. I was reading that little
Yeah,
bit. and
so... But
I mean,
I hope you're all being nice in there. Behave
I
yourself.
don't think energy can be destroyed, but it can be dissipated.
energy cannot be destroyed.
It can be dissipated.
It can be dissipated, but it can't be destroyed. It basically leaves and goes to another place. It's everlasting. You cannot end energy.
I think the trouble with me was at the start of the conversation, my Auntie Dolly ringing up really threw me right out, and I didn't know where to go from there. And I misheard everything he said, so I wasn't sure, and he's probably thinking amateurs. But never mind.
We don't care.
Never mind. Well, we've got more to come, so have we? And I must admit, it's getting to that time where I don't know whether to go to the next spot or not, but we need to finish the observations.
Finish up where you was with your zombies.
Right, we did the old coffee bit.
We did. You done zombies there.
Yeah, the volume was a little bit up and down, wasn't it? So
it was. His Skype went a bit weird. It was as if he kept moving away from the mic.
And Reverend Savage said he felt as though he was doing a bit of fishing. Did you catch the hook?
No.
Not really. We were sitting here. Some of the things that he picked up on, I must admit, we have got a doorbell. I couldn't work that one out, and but
I mean, like you said, when you said about the question, we both stood there and went, he's going to say yes.
Yeah, we did actually, I must admit. Yeah. Well, anyway, let's go back to this.
But then again, it is also possible that he was being told yes.
Yes. So
we can't completely.
We can't diss him. We don't know him, so.
No. I mean, it's like everything else. If you to get a reading with a medium, first of all, you go word of mouth.
Yeah.
People are telling you that they're good or not. You've also got to feel comfortable with that medium.
What do you think, Neil? Mike?
What do I think about which bit?
Yeah.
What I just said.
Well, you know my feelings about it. I don't trust any readings that are done online. I don't trust any readings that are done over the phone.
Well, you don't do them, do you?
So that's why I don't do them. You can't give a proper 100% reading unless you're actually in the vicinity of that person.
Yeah, so you need basically you need to pick up on the energy that's around them.
Yeah.
Right, can I ask, has everything calmed down now in the chat room?
And before there's a full-blown argument, that's the way I work.
Andy totally agrees. I think
and Reiki Debs disagrees.
Nigel said respect.
Anyway, where was I? Right. We were talking about art imitating life and vice versa. We are calm. That's what I do. Right, okay.
And he was saying that wasn't... John said it wasn't him, it was Anita.
It was Anita, yes. Sorry about that. Right. As I was saying before I was so rudely interrupted...
Calm down.
When there's no room for more room in hell, the dead will walk the earth. That was a tagline from Georgia Romero's Dawn of the Dead. It speaks of a battered and bleak vision of humanity. The quote is derived from a Haitian voodoo religion called Santeria. So I remember what he put earlier. Practitioners of voodoo have long believed that sorcerers are responsible for reanimating the dead. But does the Bible predict the zombies apocalypse? The zombie apocalypse seems to show up in religious texts that can make you think, what the? Although most of these references don't point to an exact apocalypse origin, they frequently make mention of horrific clashes with the undead. The Bible in particular is full of examples of and illustrations of people being reanimated. Let's not forget that the entire New Testament is about Jesus, a man who died and then came back to life. This is a compiled list of top zombie scenes from the Bible. Are you ready for this, guys? Zechariah 14:12. Chapter 14, verse 12.
Yep.
And the Lord will send a plague on all the nations that fought against Jerusalem. Their people will become like walking corpses, their flesh rotting away, their eyes will rot in their sockets, and their tongues will rot in their mouths. On that day they will be terrified, stricken by the Lord with great panic.
Terrified? I think I'd be dead.
They will fight their neighbours hand to hand.
Well, I mean, if you've got your eyes and everything rotting in your face, wouldn't you be dead?
I just need to get
Well, if
rid
you're
of
actually
that.
rotten, you've got to be dead.
Okay. In Revelations chapter 20, 13 and 14. And the sea gave up the dead which were in it, and death and hell delivered up the death which were in them, and they were judged every man according to their works. And death and hell will cast into the lake of fire. This is the second death. Isaiah 26, 19 to 20. But your dead will live, their bodies will rise, your dew is like the dew of the morning, the earth will give birth to her dead. Go, my people, enter your rooms and shut the door behind you. Hide yourself for a little while until his wrath has passed by. And lastly, in Matthew 27, verse 52 to 54, and the graves were opened, and many bodies of the saints were which slept arose and came out of the grave after his resurrection, and went into the holy city and appeared unto many. Is it just us, or does this all sound pretty damn horrifying? With offers of survival courses available over the internet, and Stephen, our son, has done one, hasn't he?
Yeah.
Maybe it's not a bad idea. Are you ready for a zombie attack?
Our Steph actually got a certificate to prove it.
He has.
He was taught how to make a crossbow out of a chair. I don't know how he did it, but...
And lastly, apocalypse advice issued for the end of the world. The British authorities have taken ideas from the Americans, haven't they, Steve?
Oh, yes.
Yes. With 9 days to go before the supposed Mayan apocalypse, time is running out for believers to find alien salvation. Are you ready for this, Andy? Oh, apparently, according to John in Minnesota, a zombie attack will start in the UK.
It's going to start here?
Yeah.
In that case, John, can you...
Come on.
Yeah, and bring the guns with you. I haven't got one. We don't have guns in this country.
Right. British authorities have insisted they are prepared excuse me, for the looming apocalypse, and have issued advice on how to cope.
I think Andy thinks it's already started in Basildon.
In the event that the world ends on December the 21st, the public should check the car, fit a smoke alarm, and learn to make a fire. The helpful advice follows an official US government blog this week which insists that the world will not end on December the 21st, 2012, or any day in 2012. It's going to be in 2013 instead. To quell fears, the UK organisations have issued detailed, if tongue-in-cheek, advice. Are you ready for this, guys? A London Fire Brigade spokesman advised, fit a smoke alarm on every level of your home. Then, at least, you might stand a chance of knowing that the end of the world is nigh ahead of those who don't. Okay? I'm getting funny looks from Neil here.
That's assuming it catches fire and we don't drown.
If you survive the apocalypse, you'll be alerted to a fire more quickly should one ever break out. The AA warned, before heading off, he's laughing here, before heading off, take time to do the basic checks on the car and allow extra time for your journey. Okay, Neil? Local radio is a good source of traffic and weather updates. Shush. And for any warnings of an impending apocalypse, should the announcer break such solemn news, try to remain focused on the road ahead and keep your hands on the wheel.
Let's get this right, shall we? We've got...
I'm not finished.
We've got a wall of water, probably a mile high. We've got earthquakes, the building's falling around us, and we've got to check our tyres.
Hang up. The assistant director of the Scouts said, if you are a scout, you know how to light a fire, how to cook, and how to make a shelter. Those basic skills are really important, and you can learn them very quickly. There are probably going to be no computers or electricity in the post-apocalyptic world, so get a basic essential guide. There are loads around in the library, such as Scouting for Boys. It was written in 1908, but it will still be relevant after the apocalypse. May I mention at this time that Scouting for Boys is the actual title, and it was written in 1908. So please do not have any derogative thoughts on that title.
I just did, but I don't want to put it on air.
Okay. So remember, it's in the library. It's called Scouting for Boys, and it was written in 1908. Other bodies, including British Transport Police and Dorset Fire and Rescue Services, confirmed they were prepared for any event that may occur on December the 21st. The French Valley of Bucarac will escape the apocalypse, apparently. We mentioned this last week. But among the internet speculation and forecasts, there are suggestions that the small French village is the only place that will survive the apocalypse, and hundreds of people have been gathering there. But fear not, for those who have failed to book their spot in the home of the extraterrestrial mothership, it is said that they have secured another peak with similar powers. Nestled deep within Serbia's Carpathian Mountains range, Mount Rutank or something like that, RTANJ, is thought to house a pyramidal structure left behind by alien visitors thousands of years ago that will emit a powerful force field at the moment of Armageddon, protecting those in its vicinity. Others have already been preparing for the party on 20th of December to celebrate the end of the world. What will you be doing?
Well, I've got an idea now.
What's that?
And it's no less stupid than all them we just read out.
Oh, okay.
It's just as stupid.
Okay.
Why don't we get in a big circle and create an energy field around ourselves?
Well, what I was going to do was put my head between my legs and kiss me backside goodbye, you know.
Well,
so.
Or we could just go and do a Nigel and go through his portal.
Yes, I was thinking that whilst I was reading it, actually.
Yeah,
is yours a safe haven, Nigel? I wonder. So, is it one that nobody knows about apart from us here on the KTBF Community Talk Show?
I don't know, but I'm going to get moaned at by some people. All those people that have read the book, Sir Isaac Newton and the Secret Sundial, will know about it.
Yes.
They might not know the exact coordinates, but they will know the area.
So what do you reckon?
Deb's going to moan at me now.
Shall we all descend on you on the 20th?
Yes,
20th?
We should all descend on Settle.
Yes.
Yeah, dinner in Settle, I think.
Yeah, fish and chips in the shop. I don't know.
Somebody actually said we should put treadmills outside the house, so when the zombies come up and run up the treadmill, it'll power the house for electric.
Oh dear. Well, we'll have to see what happens. Can we squat at Drakelow Tunnels when zombies start? Oh, there's an idea. Let's all descend on Drakelow Tunnels. That should help us, shouldn't it?
Well, we know the way in. There's no power. We have to get some food and water in there.
I think it depends on the flooding.
Yes, that's true. It depends on the flooding. Well,
having said that, if it does flood, we might actually find a secret chamber that's meant to be in there.
Yeah, never know.
There's meant to be. There's rumoured that there's an actual tunnels below the tunnels that are there.
I think 50,000 gallons of water running through the tunnel, Steve. The last thing that'd be on my mind is finding a secret chamber.
Right, okay, guys.
We just follow the water.
What we're going to do, we're going to have a quick break while we do the paranormal events before we bring our next guest on. So we'll see you soon.
We've got all the news right here. Don't go away.
Fed up of wading through the activities and events that other advertisers include? Find just what you're looking for at paranormaleventsforyou.com, your one-stop paranormal directory.
On the 15th to the 12th, ghost hunt with the haunting team at the Four Crosses pub in Cannock. On the 21st to the 12th is a psychic night at the parking in Harlow. And on the 29th to the 12th, DI Paranormal UK are going to the London Dungeons in London. Also on the 29th to the 12th, Spirit Watch Paranormal off to the ancient Ramin in Stroud. On the 5th of the 1st, DI Paranormal UK are off to the Lawn in Lincoln. On the 12th of the 1st, Prestige Paranormal Events are doing a ghost hunt with a 2-course dinner at the Feathers Hotel in Ludlow. And also on the 12th, Spooky Events are off to the Bradwell Farmhouse in Milton Keynes. On the 19th of the 1st, the Haunting Team are going to Hinckley Museum in Hinckley.
So check out the one-stop paranormal directory for more investigations and events available now. ParanormalEventsForYou.com also offers banner advertising for only £10 per year. See our website for more details. ParanormalEventsForYou.com, your one-stop paranormal directory. Yeah, welcome back to the show, ladies and gentlemen. That was the paranormal events for you for this week. Hope you heard them okay. And our next segment is none other than Andy Mercer, Andy 707 to you. He's going to be looking at the chat room at the same time. So be careful now. Pardon? Yes. Okay. So can you hear Andy okay? We need to work out you can hear him okay.
Hello, everyone.
Because he's not on Skype. Oh God, that's getting heavier. Can you hear him? Can you waffle for a minute?
Yeah, the last time I tried to Skype, we had all sorts of strange problems.
Yes.
He explained this. Yes, everyone hear me? Hello.
Eel is trying to work it out. I beg your pardon. Can you hear? Please talk to us in there. Lost me for a moment there. Excuse me, guys. Can you hear? Can you hear Andy?
Oh, we're still talking about buzzing. Am I buzzing?
I don't know what they're talking about. Zombies again. I think Lee's just come back from finding a crossbow or something.
Deb's can't hear me. Hello.
He's getting a crossbow for his birthday.
There's a. You're hearing buzzing, are you, John? Vicky. You can hear him okay. Can everyone hear him okay? Please talk to me.
Hello. Can you hear me? Oh, how are things going? All right.
No, we can't. Hang up then. Let's try something else.
Okay.
Right. No, not literally hang up. Right, speak to me.
Hello.
Right. Are you on loudspeaker?
I am here.
Do we have a volume on this? It don't look like it.
I can talk a little louder if you like. I can switch over to the mobile if you prefer.
Hold on.
Try that.
Speak now.
Hello.
Can you hear him now?
Can anybody hear me?
Speak now.
One poor.
Come on, answer me, people in the hub.
Hello, yeah. Oh, hi.
It works perfectly earlier. It's you. Hold on. Can you hear him at all?
No.
Come on, people.
Going really well tonight, isn't it? Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Hooray.
Is he English? I don't know, is he English?
Charming.
Right, can you hear me okay as well?
I can hear you, yes.
Right, okay, can they hear me?
Yeah, they're saying better now.
Right, that's good.
Much
So I'm not
better.
seeing it as quicker than what Steve is at the moment. Right, if I leave that up there like that. Right, good evening, Andy.
Hello.
How are you?
Oh, not too bad, not too bad.
Good.
Feel slightly abused today, but otherwise fine.
Pardon?
Feel slightly abused today, but otherwise fine. I've got a bit of a cold, actually, so you have to excuse my voice is a bit croaky.
Right,
It's
okay.
breathing and from Essex, yes.
Right. Okay, so we're going to be talking about the occult.
Yeah.
Oh, a very controversial subject.
It's very
And
wide
confusing.
Subject. Very wide subject.
Very broad, yes. Particularly when mixed in with paranormal investigating. It's one of those issues that occasionally comes up, whether people should use what you might call occult methods to investigate ghosts or not. That was really my kind of angle. I thought we could talk about a bit, because it's something that has interested me in the past, just the occult itself, the whole idea of sort of hidden mysteries, which is really what occult means. But also I know some people do like to try and use, so we say, magic on investigations sometimes as well, to see if they can actually create events or cause that which is there to manifest and that sort of thing.
Well, I must admit, we have seen on Most Haunted, on the last lives, there was a lot of that conjuring up.
There was a lot of
stuff
lot coming from
there.
the demonology side.
Yeah.
With, what's his name?
Yes, this is one thing that gets on my nerves a lot, is these so-called demonologists. They seem to prattle on about basic demons from the Bible, etc., etc., as if that's all the occult is about demons and how they can come along and annoy people and be horrible. It's like, oh, for God's sake, give it a rest. But it does seem to be that as soon as that sort of term pops up, that's what people start talking about, is demon possession and all that sort of thing. Whereas I'm interested in ceremonial magic, which is about working with energies that are around you. A demonologist twaddle, yes, thank you, Nigel. Exactly.
You know you're going to get it this week, don't you?
Absolutely. Should have trademarked that term, twaddle. It could have made money every time someone says it. So.
Right, Lee said the group of Nottingham drew a pentagram on the Bible to try to rile the spirits. A little bit blasphemous, I would say.
That was a bit, it's not a good idea to start mucking about people's belief systems as well. That's what would concern me. But funny enough, mentioning Nottingham is interesting because I did an event at the Galleries of Justice a few years ago, and we were aware of something very strange in the women's washroom. But there was some very odd energy in there. And having had a little chat with one of the staff there, they said that they think the group the previous week had actually tried some kind of experimentation in there, and they'd upset the energies of the place. So be very careful.
Yeah, I can understand. Now, when we're talking about the occult, now, excuse my background, but I remember as a child, well, no, a little bit older than that, in my early or late teens, I was into black magic, and I was fascinated by it, and I suppose I did sort of dabble a bit, yeah. And obviously I remember actually having a pentagram in my flat that I was in under the carpet, but you know, at the end of the day, what's this all about? What is the occult about? We're not talking about the black arts, are we?
No. I mean, the term occult itself just means hidden knowledge. The difference is really the idea of occult knowledge is to access knowledge by various other means. If you think about it, religion is based on the whole idea of faith and belief that that's enough, whereas occult is about the idea of knowledge being pursued rather than simple faith and belief. Now, people do tend to mix terms up. For example, a pentagram in ceremonial magic has a different meaning to, say, in Wiccan, for example. So it does depend on which sort of field of the occult you're talking about. So my personal interest is in ceremonial magic, which is involves rituals, which involves incantations, if you like, in order to achieve certain changes. They can be positive or they can be seen as negative. If you're working to make things better for yourself at someone's detriment, then that's black magic by definition. But if you're working as a group, or if you're trying to improve the environment around you, or try and create positive changes, and that's white magic by definition. So it's magic. Magic is magic, if you like. It just depends on what you do with it and how you use it.
Yeah. Now the grimoire. I have a copy of the Grimoire Verum.
Grimoire Verum, yes.
Yes. And that is actually, it's not, well, it's only 27 pages.
Yeah.
Because I've got it off the net, sort of thing. But that conjures up Astaroth and Beelzebub and Lucifer.
Those are very much books of black magic. That is the demonic forces that they would be designed to be conjuring up. They became very popular in the Middle Ages, sort of mid-1400s, 1500s. These things started to pop up. And all of the books are about supposedly raising sort of devils and demons. I mean, the most famous one would be the Goetia, which, it's got 76 demons. It's about how to raise each one of those individually. But there's also the Book of Solomon, which is more about, again, more positive magic, how Solomon captured and imprisoned certain demons and used them to help build the Temple of Solomon.
Yeah, that's the one I've got.
There are dozens of different books out there. Most of them popped around the sort of middle to late Middle Ages, and they're quite fascinating to read because they do seem to come almost out of the blue.
Yeah.
This information is just sort of appears.
Yeah, the one I've got, it was translated by some Alec the Egyptian or something or other.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
But I only really looked at it today to see what it was all about. Forgot I had it.
It's actually from about the mid-1700s. It's a much more recent book than the more interesting material. I mean, the earliest one was, I forget the name of it now, the Key of Moses, which goes back to about 300 AD. Or the Sword of Moses, again of a similar date, but they contain mainly very long spells, if you like, in ancient Hebrew. It's just in the late Middle Ages, you suddenly had all sorts of diagrams and symbols and sigils, as they called, started popping up with these books, and people started using those by sort of drawing them out and using the incantations to create all sorts of possible effects, which was the idea.
So what's this all about, dancing round fires and stuff like that? Is that all the Wiccan thing, or is it the black arts?
I mean, that's more, again, it can be both. I mean, Wiccans would definitely indulge in that kind of thing. Old-fashioned traditional witchcraft would be involved in that sort of thing. But again, both Wiccan and witchcraft is just a religion, if you like. Yeah, and certain black masses also involve people running around naked. So again, it's more to do with the intent rather than what you're actually doing. But for example, people might mix up witchcraft and Wicca. Wiccan is a fairly modern invention that popped up with Joe Garden in the 1950s, but sort of traditional witchcraft goes back much further, but it doesn't tend to be written down very much. It tends to be an oral tradition, which only recently has begun to emerge as a separate tradition of its own. But again, they all come under the occult term, but they're all really different forms of magic and forms of basic religion.
Now, the grimoire, it's actually a book, isn't it? It's just like a notebook of like...
Well, the grimoire is...
a diary.
Comes from the French for grammar. So it's a grammar book, basically, yes.
Yeah.
And it's a generic term for books of magic spells, if you like. And there are dozens of different books around. Some of the most famous ones, as I say, are things like the Goetia or the Book of Solomon, the Key of Solomon, etc. These are probably the best-known ones.
Yeah. So it's just basically a book of shadows.
Yeah, it is. That's basically where the idea comes from, these books of spells. For example, the Book of Solomon, we speak of a Book of Solomon. In fact, there are 22 known different versions of it. And they all sort of crop up around similar times, and you can tell they're crossbred from each other. They're nicking different ideas from each other. And so a writer will come along and get a couple of manuscripts in, say, the late 1700s, put them together and form a new book, if you like, or completely create one out of the blue for themselves and then claim it was a book of magic that could be sold to the public. And that was often what it was about, was create these magic spell books, pass them out to the public, and sell them. And then people could use them to make their own magic.
Have you seen what Nigel's just put? This is really interesting stuff, Andy.
You're much better live.
Oh, thank you. Thanks, Nigel. Yeah, Nigel actually mentions one a bit further up, the Abramellion. That's probably one of the most famous and most powerful books because it's an entire ritual that takes place over a year, which is incredibly involving and takes an awful lot of work. In fact, the rather famous Mr. Aleister Crowley began the Abramellion ritual himself back in a house in Scotland, just on the borders of Loch Ness, but never quite finished it. And being Aleister Crowley, kind of got bored and gave up halfway through. And all the tenants and owners of the building after said it's incredibly haunted, all sorts of powerful, malignant, negative spirit energies all moving around in the building. And they probably are as a result of what Crowley was doing there. So.
Yeah.
There is, I mean, the story with Aleister Crowley that he kind of locked himself in his room to supposedly to raise the devil, and in the morning when he opened up, he was a quivering wreck in the corner.
It's one of those stories that does tend to wander about, and I have to say there's very little truth to it. And in fact, many of the stories about Crowley are Mr. Crowley's invention because he liked publicity. As far as he was concerned, any publicity was good publicity, no matter how bad. So he used to revel in all the notorious stories about him. The worst he probably ever did was sacrifice a cat. That's probably about it. I mean, there's stories about him having an illegitimate son, which he sacrificed to the devil. Again, complete nonsense.
He was technically mad, wasn't he, really?
Well, yes, I would actually say he was. I mean, some people would strongly disagree, but certainly when he was at school, he did have a bit of a rough time with other kids there. And one particular occasion, he was sent to Coventry by the other kids for a particular reason that was never fully explored or explained. But he also spent some time being locked in a cupboard and basically probably had a bit of a nervous breakdown whilst in the cupboard and never really recovered.
So what about this other guy, this LaVey?
Oh God, no! Don't even mention him. No, Santos Vey is just a showman, basically. He decided to, the sort of height of the counterculture in the 1960s, decided to start his own religion, the Church of Satan. And it's just nonsensical rubbish. It's just an excuse for having lots of wild parties and lots of sex, basically. I mean, it's a difficult one because it depends on your point of view again, because for some people, Lucifer is the embodiment of merriment and life and fun and adventure.
Yeah. And
it's sort of anti-Christian, not necessarily anti-people, but it's more about reveling in the things that are regarded as sin to Christianity, all the sort of nice, fun things we want to do, that they're seen as sinful, that things like the Temple of Set, which is a more serious version of Satanism, if you like. But for them, again, it's about having a good time. It's not necessarily giving anyone a hard time or being nasty to anybody. It's just about having fun.
Well, Lucifer actually means light bearer, doesn't it?
Yeah, well, this is it, light bearer.
Exactly. I mean, this is about the light of knowledge again, rather than the veiled ignorance of pure faith.
You can hear Steve okay, yeah?
Just about. He's a bit quiet, a bit in the background there.
Yeah. She said, well, I move your phone over, and, so I was hoping to get you on the loudspeaker, but you seemed a little bit... Yeah. So...
I mean, of all the things that you've read and discovered through all everything you've done, what does the occult mean to you?
Oh God, that's a difficult question really to answer quickly. As you know, I am a psychotherapist by profession, and I am interested in the way in which a lot of this so-called magic and occult material is actually about exploring the human mind, the human psyche. And to me also, it works with elements of the collective unconscious, which as a Jungian therapist interests me enormously. The basic idea is that at the deepest level of our awareness, there is a collectivity, the collective unconscious, that is kind of a storehouse of knowledge. And I think a lot of this magic material actually accesses that level of awareness of the collective unconscious. And for me, that's my main interest, is how this stuff can energize the mind, if you like. And I do very much believe that we are, going back to what we were talking about earlier on, about energy, that we generate all sorts of energy, electromagnetic fields in our bodies. I mean, for example, the heart generates an enormous electrical field, much more than the brain does. And magic, properly used, can help to tune that energy, if you like, make use of that energy. And which is something I sometimes do when I'm working on a ghost investigation, for example. I don't try to conjure things up, but I'll try and use magical ritual to attune myself and attune the environment around me to build up the energy to see if something can happen using that energy. So for me, it's a way of working with the environment around me.
So do you come upon the elements and stuff like that?
Well, in a sense, yeah. I mean, a ritual I tend to use quite often on investigations is the Lesser Banishing Ritual of the Pentagram, which again is just designed to call in energies. I mean, it uses terms like archangel names, etc. So Raphael, Oriel, Michael, all that kind of thing, and drawing pentagrams and six-pointed stars and that sort of thing is involved in it. So it's traditional magic in the sense that this sort of thing has been around again since the Middle Ages. So.
You got another question there, Steve?
Yeah, the one from Tiger, he was saying that when he lived in Essex, he was told not to go to the High Beach at night because of a lot of devil worship. Do you know about that?
Well, he's tapping into something. It really depends on when he lived or she lived there, because certainly back in the 1980s there was a problem in this area. If anyone's ever read Andy Collins's books, particularly The Black Alchemist and The Seventh Sword, will be aware that particularly in the 1980s in the Essex and Sussex areas there was some activity involving certain groups and individuals practicing what would only be called black magic. So yes, it's quite possible the High Beach is one place where that sort of thing was going on. It's been blown out of all proportion by certain other writers who I think have added more material to it that really should be there. I kind of exaggerated a bit, but certainly I know Andy Collins personally pretty well, and the stuff that's in The Black Alchemist, as far as I'm concerned, is pretty much true in terms of what he was experiencing in his Psychic Bernard, what they were working with in the 1980s. And I was involved in his group, EarthQuest, and we did some investigating of unusual activity. I mean, the problem really is whether the stuff's real or not. If people believe it's real and they're trying to cause intent, then they're going to make things happen. And that's the thing. If they're doing particularly negative things in certain areas, they're going to upset the energies in that area.
So what do you feel about the Ouija board? About, obviously it's connected, they say, with the darker side sort of thing. What's your opinion? Do people actually use it with this occult business in investigations?
Well, again, it's a difficult one because the Ouija board very much belongs to the era of the Victorian seance. Now, most people who use them are using them in that way that they were used in those days, but there are all sorts of problems. We all know it's not difficult to just push it around by yourself, but also it's quite possible that it's just subconscious is bringing forward information. So I'm personally not a big fan of them because I don't think you can rely on any of the information that comes from them because they deliberately or otherwise it's so easy to fake. But that really is the realms of spiritualism and Victorian seances, which would come under the umbrella of the occult, obviously, but it's not an area that interests me particularly. Sorry, excuse me. Yes, I must say, Nigel, just reading what you said there, I spoke to Andy about you. He does remember you, yeah. So, yeah, I can certainly agree with that. In Loughton, yes, Loughton was one area that was possibly involved in the 80s. Tiger, there was a rather large, in fact, there were 2 temples in the woods in Epping Forest that are quite close to the Loughton area. I found one of them. I've got photographs of it somewhere. Unfortunately, I've lost them since I've moved house. But there was activity definitely in that area as well.
Don't need to ask you questions. You can see what they're saying.
Yeah.
Quicker than I am.
Yeah, Nigel said about the 7 swords that he didn't actually know about at the time.
Yeah. So what do you? So what do you think? It's not your 7th sword, is it? The one you've been reading or you read before?
No.
No. Okay.
No, this is something completely different.
Oh right.
Yes, Hangman's Hill was definitely one of the spots we looked into, Tiger. Yeah.
Okay. Shall I just hold the phone here and you just talk? But as I say, there's so much that goes on these ghost hunting stuff. Some maybe are unethical, from what people have said.
Yeah.
What have you heard of that's happened or seen?
Again, one of the problems I think is that people do use ritual magic on investigations without the permission of the owner of the property. And if the owner of the property doesn't want that to happen, they're going to get pretty annoyed because it does cause things to happen. There's no 2 ways about it. You're working in a location that has energy because we know it is because it's haunted. And then some people are using that energy for their own means by trying to create effects that don't belong in that place. That was very much typical of what happened, what we found at the Gallows of Justice, this strange kind of vortex feeling that was in one part of the woman's washroom that just didn't belong there. We knew it didn't belong there. It felt very uncomfortable.
I must admit, we used to do a place in Pontefract. It's burnt down now. And we went there and we were the only groups that were doing it. And then they started letting another group in, didn't they? I don't know who it was. And when we went back, we found, what was it, 8 vortexes or something? They just opened all over the place.
Around,
yeah.
They actually got thrown out because they were going in people's rooms
that had actually booked it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and you go there and you think, well, why are these vortexes open? There wasn't here before,
Yeah, exactly.
I really need those 2.
I mean, I don't know what a vortex is. Obviously, Nigel's the man for that sort of thing. But just what I pick up, I sense, is just complete chaos. It just feels like you've just walked into some really mad party.
Yes.
It's not supposed to feel like that.
Well, this is it, and this particular building was on what used to be part of the grounds of the Pontefract Castle.
Oh, okay.
And there was like a monastery that was also been in that area, so there were stories about seeing a monk, funny enough. There used to be a hill there, that's why there's a place called Monk Hill or something, and people in the bar said that they actually saw a pair of legs walking down the steps kicking what looked like a ball. It was really weird, some of the stuff we got there, wasn't it?
Yeah, Nigel's, as you could probably read there, the bottom line, do you think personally that spirits exist?
Oh, this is a difficult question.
So, what do you think they are?
It is a difficult question. It depends what you mean by spirits. I mean, I quite like a bit of brandy or vodka. But no, seriously, I don't know. I believe in energy. Again, we were talking before about energy. That energy can break down into different forms, is what I was trying to talk about earlier on. That these entities exist in a third place. Now, this is where it gets a bit complicated. That there neither out there in the world around us, nor are they entirely in our head. They're in a third place, which I like to call the collective unconscious, that they manifest from that deep awareness. That means that they're not just out there, or they're not just in our heads. We need both, and they are very much part and parcel of who we are. They're part of our existence, if you like. But yeah, so I suppose the short answer is yes, I do, but probably not in the same way that some people would define a spirit. I think it's more about the interplay of energy from sort of different forms. And again, with working with ritual magic, that's what you're working with, is that very same form of energy. That you can somehow tap into it. And again, I mean, I'm not a great believer in past lives. I think they are, again, recording memories that are in the collective unconscious that we tap into. But because the way in which you tap into it, it appears to be that you're having that past life experience. In fact, it could be anybody's past life experience, a past life, because it's in that storehouse of knowledge of the collective unconscious, that deep wellspring of knowledge that we can occasionally tap into. And as I say, I think a place will have an energy to it. It has a history to it. And you combine the energy and the history, you start to see manifestations of that energy. You start to see ghosts. But I would say if you're not there, then they're not there. They don't exist outside of us, but they don't exist just inside of us either, if you get what I mean. It's that kind of third space.
Well, we get called out to places, obviously, that, touching on something that Kerry was going to talk about, we get called on to places that reputedly say they're being haunted. Yeah. And sometimes nothing happens when we're there. Always nothing happens. But when we leave, all hell breaks loose, blah, 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 blah. What's your theory on this? Do you feel as though it's a case of, well, it's because we're there? Or do you think it's a case of something else?
Absolutely, no. We play a huge part in this. I mean, as you probably know before, I've been involved in various different paranormal events companies, and the attitude of the people on the event makes a huge difference as to whether there's any activity. Again, they're not creating it, but we're feeding into it to allow things to happen. So who's there and what we're doing there does make a massive difference. If you simply sit back and expect all sorts of weird and wonderful things start happening all by themselves, then 99% of the time they don't. Occasionally they do. You know, sometimes I've seen odd stuff start right at the beginning of the investigation before you've done anything. But it needs us to be there to help enable these events to occur. Sometimes, when we can build up the energy by what we're doing, and then as we go, the energy's imprint's still there, and things happen afterwards because we've kind of left it behind.
So would you say that they're actually feeding on our energy?
Oh yeah, absolutely. We play a very active part of it, definitely.
Yeah. So,
what do you think about that, Neil?
Mr. Mullally.
Well, when I work spiritually, the energy is 50-50. I've got to supply 50%, and the spirit has to supply 50%, and that's the only way it works.
Yeah.
I don't believe... A bit like an old videotape.
I don't believe for one moment that there is just one third place.
Yeah.
Hang
up, Andy. Go on.
The way I've been taught and the way I've been brought up with all this is that there are a lot of places there, and beyond our concept. So it's not just one place.
Yeah.
I don't believe that they are part of everything.
Yeah.
But some of the things that he said are on the right line.
Yep.
But like I say, everybody has their own opinion. And
okay, you were saying, sorry, Andy.
Yeah, no, I was just saying, in a sense, it's a bit like the old videotape or DVD as it is these days.
Yeah.
The video, the program is on there, but you need the machine for it to run. Like if we are the machines, we provide the energy that then allows these things to become active. Without us, it's completely passive.
Yeah.
But that old saying about the tree falling down in the forest, if there's no one there to hear it, does it make a noise? Well, of course it does. The vibrations occur, but is that just what sound is?
I would actually disagree with that as well, because there has been evidence that spirits do exist without any human energy there, that they still manifest. And there has been evidence, that does suggest that. So again, I disagree with that.
Okay, so I'm trying to move my mic. Go on.
Well, it really depends on how long it's been since someone's been there. Okay,
Yeah.
You can have that where you're at a location, say for hours, you're sort of working together as a group, you're trying to hopefully help things manifest. Bugger all happens until just after you left.
Yeah.
Because you've already disturbed the vibrational frequencies, if you like, in the area. You've built up the energy, and then things happen afterwards. But I don't think, if a place is left completely unoccupied, not used, not visited at all for years, not much is going to happen there because it'll all become very flat.
So, okay, going back to your occult.
Yeah.
How would you define it? The good side of it. Dispel some of the myths about it for us.
Well, the first things people tend to think straight away of black magic. Now, it really depends on what you mean by black magic. If it's magic that's being performed to your own benefit and to the disbenefit, if you like, of everybody else, then that is what you would call black magic. You're trying to actively manipulate energies in order to get your own benefit, and if it means somebody else suffers, tough crap, basically. You can have what you'd call left-hand path magic, whereby you're doing things for yourself, but you're not trying to necessarily affect anybody else. If it has a negative effect on somebody else, then well, so be it. And then you have white magic, which is where you're trying to help everybody else around you. But there's always an interchange, you see. That's always the thing. If you're working with energy, there's always not a price to pay as such, but there's always going to be an other side to the effect, and that's one thing you always have to bear in mind, that if you're trying to cause something to happen, then you have to be careful because there will be a side effect of that. Now, I personally don't really practice anything in magic at all. I haven't done for many years. My interest tends to be more, like, say, on the psychological lines of how it works with our minds and how it affects our thinking. But I know that's how people tend to define magic. I mean, a very good example of misunderstandings is people often see the image of a chap called Baphomet, which looks like a goat, basically, with wings, that people see as being the image of the devil. Baphomet was actually drawn out by a guy called Eliphas Levi in the 1800s, and it's embodiment of wisdom and knowledge. It's been completely perverted. I mean, there's been various versions of it going back to the Templars' times, but the version we often see today only dates back to Eliphas Levi in the 1870s. But again, that's seen as being synonymous with the devil, largely thanks to Dennis Wheatley, who made the use of the image in a lot of his writings and his stories. But again, it's not the devil at all. It's the embodiment of wisdom. But yeah, people unfortunately tend to see it as being the devil.
It's a lot of things with a lot of symbols, though, isn't there? Because take, for instance, the Third Reich. They turned around the Christian symbol there, which was used for something, and made it into theirs.
Again, the original swastika itself does occur all over the world. The version you see in Nazi Germany was actually first introduced in the 1920s by his name, like Lance von Liebenfeld. First used a symbol on black on a yellow background, but it was the horizontal vertical version you'd see in India, but reversed. And I get the chap whose name, it wasn't Hitler who came up with the use of the swastika for the Nazi Party, it was somebody else. But they turned it to a 45-degree angle, which the idea was that it was then drawing in energy. And instead of the sun wheel giving out energy, the Nazi version was to pull energy in and strengthen them. That's the mystical idea of the swastika there. But as a symbol, it's been seen all over the world, and mostly to do with peace and prosperity, not evil at all.
Yeah, this is it. So what's your advice to ghost hunters or people that look at the occult and think,
Well, first and foremost, remember, it's not about black magic. It's about that not a million miles away from what we're doing as observing ghostly activity. It's a way of enhancing that activity by drawing more energy into yourself. Particularly mediums can make use of it. By drawing energy into yourself, which you can then use to work with and help manifest effect. I mean, Aleister Crowley describes magic as being a science of causing effects, to cause effect with conformity to the will. Now, the will he meant is a very positive sense of will of light and will of positivity, but you can turn it into a negative very easily. People sometimes do. But what he meant by the will there is just in a sense of enabling things to happen.
Steve's got another question for you.
Two things really. Nigel said that a swastika for good luck was used in the US on an aircraft too in the 1930s. But
you'd see it often on Rudyard Kipling's books. The earlier editions of The Jungle Book had a swastika on the cover because it's an Indian symbol.
Yeah, and I was wondering if you could tell us something about. I think it's called Golden Dawn that Crowley was involved in.
Absolutely, the Magic Order of Golden Dawn. I actually run a day-long occult course on the Golden Dawn. Yeah,
Okay.
It was formed in 1888 by a group of basically Rosicrucian Freemasons. Samuel McGregor Mathers, Wynne Westcott, and Dr. Woodman were the three guys who founded the Golden Dawn. Unfortunately, Dr. Woodman died fairly soon after the formation, and Wynne Westcott and Gregor Mathers basically continued the group. It was quite a small organisation, but it brought together some of the more enlightened thinkers, shall we say, of the 1800s who were interested in the practical side of magic. They've all been members of a Rosicrucian order that was much more interested in the theoretical side of magic, but these guys wanted to practice stuff. And the story goes that they found a series of manuscripts in an old book they bought in Portobello Market in the 1880s that had secret rituals written into them that were written by a German organisation that they then wrote to the author, Anna Spriel, of the German organisation, asking the permission to form a British branch of the Golden Dawn. She agreed and probably died and disappeared. Now, in actual fact, the documents probably were actually written by McGregor Mathers based on a lot of the work done by a chap called Frederick Hockley from the 1870s. So they created basically the first real modern ritual magic group, shall we say. And a lot of the modern magic we see today is based around the Golden Dawn's ideas. Things like the Wiccan movement, where Joe Gardner was a member of a later offshoot of the Golden Dawn. I mean, he claims to have known this secret witch called Doris Clutterbuck in the New Forest. Basically, it's a pile of nonsense. He was a member of the Golden Dawn and took a lot of his ritual magic ideas from the Golden Dawn, just rewrote them, and renamed a lot of the rituals and the gods and goddesses involved, whereas the Golden Dawn stuff was a lot of Egyptian-based. He just turned it into sort of more Western European Wiccan-based, which is how he founded the Wiccan movement.
Nigel says Mathers came to Keighley and tried to close down the rival of the Golden Dawn called the Lamp of Thoth. This was a secret group that would meet on Ilkley Moor.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, most of these groups were quite secret, but the Golden Dawn itself began to fragment very, very quickly after formation. It was early as the 1890s, and lots of different offshoots started to form from former members. Each one came in to be the official follower on from the Golden Dawn. But Lamp of Thoth is one I'm certainly familiar with. McGregor Mathers was an absolute genius for writing rituals, though. Most of the Golden Dawn material, which you can buy in the complete works of the Golden Dawn, was written by Mathers, based largely on, say, Frederick Hockley's work from the 1860s and 70s. Personally, my fascination was Frederick Hockley, because a lot of his material, again, is these menus that he copied by hand, and some of the calligraphy is beautiful.
Yeah.
And they're all being released at the moment by a company called Titan Press in America, who printed a lot of this material for the first time, and it is absolutely fascinating, and it's quite a... Excuse me a second. You have to apologise, I've got a bit of a cold with some
That's okay.
But Hockley's material is gradually being published, and anyone who's seriously interested in the history of ritual magic in the West should get a hold of his books, because they are fascinating.
And this ritual's about killing cows and stuff like that, and Tiger said they think this, there was one on the beach or something or other that time, but this ritual about killing animals and babies of sorts, what's all that about? Is it true? Is it?
As far as I am aware, most of it's a pile of crap, basically.
Yeah. So
it is sensationalism. I mean, the press, it's a bit of a long story, really. Basically, the Golden Dawn itself was quite a secretive organisation. Crowley became a member, then got kicked out. Then, because the Golden Dawn had never formally copyrighted their material, he started to publish it in a series of magazines called The Equinox. And this caused all sorts of controversy. Members of the Golden Dawn tried to take Crowley and succeeded in taking Crowley to court, and all sorts of salacious stories came out in court, half of which were invented by Crowley to boost his reputation and to make himself seem to be the wickedest man in the world. And much of it is based on sensational press from the 1910s and the 1920s during these court cases, battling over the copyright of the Golden Dawn rituals. But I mean, all sorts of people do all sorts of things in the name of ritual magic, and most of it is very sadly misguided. But certainly Golden Dawn-based ceremonial magic doesn't involve the sacrifice of anything. Strictly, it's just ritual magic that's done by us as individuals. It doesn't involve blood of any animals. I mean, a lot of the grimoire magic does. I mean, there's warnings in these books saying, don't take these things seriously. Don't try these things out. These are historical documents only. But you do get the odd nutter out there, of course, is going to try and actually make use of these things and try to deliberately use them in the hope of getting some kind of supernatural power, and then you're talking about black magic. An idea of doing things that are detrimental in order to generate particular effects that benefit just you. And most of the time, nothing happens.
Wasn't Byron into this sort of stuff?
He had an interest, certainly, but it was just a passing interest, really.
What was that?
Yeah, I mean, again, these manuscripts were very popular in the sort of 17 and 1800s particularly. It was quite fanciful to have a collection of grimoires of magic.
Yeah.
It made you feel like it was something special. And they were very hard to get hold of. They were very, very expensive, often copied out by hand. Even though presses existed, these things tend to be handwritten. It's only really in the last sort of 20 years or so that so much of it's been published.
Dennis Wheatley, he seems to me, he seems to be the god, so to speak, of... you know, I like Dennis Wheatley. I
actually loved the book.
Yeah, The Devil and All His Works. You know, when he went through everything, you know, paganism and everything else.
You have to bear in mind he came from a very, very biased point of view.
Yes, I've heard this though.
Yeah, he was a Christian. I mean, you know, his attitude is going to be that it's all the work of the devil, because it comes down to that fundamental difference between faith and knowledge, Gnosticism. You know, fundamentally, the occult is Gnostic. It's about knowledge, not faith. You know, because one precludes the other. You know, either you believe or you don't believe, but you can't just have the knowledge of something. If you have knowledge, it's not belief; it's knowledge.
That Tyler should be saying about the cow that was found on the beach. I don't know. There was quite a few witnesses or something. I don't know.
It wasn't the beach; it was in the flats.
Oh, is it in the flats?
Yeah, flat they found it.
Oh.
If they found it in the water, so I'm assuming he's on about a canal.
Oh right, so I don't know. He's on about a cow that was found or something after a ritual or something or other back then. It was further back. I did miss some of that. So
But again, you see,
it was a long way back.
Yeah.
People can do all sorts of things, and they claim it's to do with ritual magic of the occult. I mean, not that long ago, I came across the severed head of a goat in the middle of a churchyard. You know, people say that was an occult ritual.
Yeah.
Some bastard just cutting some goat's head off. You know,
Yeah.
you could easily define it differently.
Well, this is it. So.
Oh yeah, I mean, Nigel's right. Wheatley was very much a student of the occult, but he was a Christian. His approach was from Christian belief, which would say that all the occult is devil worshipping.
So, well, it's been very interesting. We'd have to get into this more sometime
absolutely.
and maybe have a little bit longer with you.
Yeah,
if that's okay.
During the week, it is such a huge subject. We could probably fill an entire show talking about the occult.
Yeah, so we'll have to sort something out for the new year sometime.
Hopefully when I feel a bit better as well, not like sticky,
Yes.
bloody cold.
Okay, my love. Well, thank you very much for your time.
That's no
And
problem at all.
we will come back to this subject
Yeah, sure.
because it does seem quite interesting. And
I will offer myself up as your resident expert on the occult, if you like.
that would be great. So we can do this, can't we? So we can sort something out for
Yeah, most likely, you know.
I mean, maybe we can come from one particular direction next time.
Yes. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that'd be right. Well, thanks a lot, Andy.
No problem at all.
And very good job for dealing with all the stuff that you dealt with whilst I was talking to Mark. What was your there was quite a debate going on while that was going on, wasn't there?
Yeah, I forgot who we were talking about now.
So, but yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's one of my real keen areas of interest is the occult roots of Nazism. It's something that's written about during my degree.
Yeah, so
psychology of evil.
If you can send me some stuff over, you know, so we know where we're coming from for next time.
Can you just tell him what Nigel just said?
Nigel just said that was very good, Andy.
Oh, thank you.
You know loads, and it was very interesting. With not one word of twaddle to be seen anywhere, my friend.
I should imagine that for a twaddle, definitely.
Okay, so thanks a lot, Andy, and we'll speak again soon. And hopefully, if you get your Skype up, it'll be a lot better.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, if you want to do one on the occult roots of Nazism, I would love to talk about that because I could talk about it for days.
We'll do that. Okay, we'll sort something out for the end of January sometime.
Yeah, sure.
All right then. Thank you. Bye.
See you later.
Bye-bye. So, there you go, guys. The occult. Hang on, I'm trying to hang up here. New phone. What is a twaddle? I don't know. What is a twaddle? A twaddle is...
Talking rubbish.
Talking rubbish? Waffle?
It just means waffling on or
waffling on and
gobbledygook
and what have you. Tiger says the way a duck walks, I think.
No, that's a waddle, John.
But as I say, I hope you enjoyed that anyway.
There was a few things in there.
Yeah, there was actually a few things in there. So but yeah, I'm not rubbish. Waffle. That's it.
That's what twaddle is.
Oh, but no, not. I don't think it's BSing. Do you, Andy? You come up with it, so you should know.
In some cases, yes.
In some cases, right? Okay. So but
Yeah. People sometimes speak twaddle or
very interesting.
or BS to make themselves more than they are.
So have you?
In Andy's case, that wasn't.
Right. So we haven't got long before the end of the show, really, have we? So yeah, and so what I'm going to do next is I'm just going to go through this haunted section, and then I will tell them we've got next week. So here is the haunted section for this evening. I just rustled this up together because basically I wasn't sure whether I'd have time for this, because if we was having Kerry on, but seems we have. There's just 3 here, and because of the fact that it was rustled up quick, I didn't know where to go, so I've just picked December. These are reoccurring hauntings. There's the Lewisham rail crash, which was a train collision on the Lewisham bypass line in London that occurred about 6:20 p.m. on the 4th of December 1957. In dense fog, a passenger train to Hayes stopped at a signal under a bridge, and the following train to Ramsgate crashed into it, the collision causing the bridge to collapse onto carriages. There were 90 fatalities and 109 people were detained in hospital. It is said that on the anniversary of the accident, their cries can still be heard. By a strange coincidence, Lewisham had been the scene of another fatal rail crash 100 years previously. 11 people killed when again one train ploughed into the rear of another that was stationary. I wonder what will happen in 100 years after that. You never know. But the trouble is, I won't be here to find out, will I? Eh? What? Anita! What's that all about? I'm trying to wrangle a copy too. I hope that wasn't nothing to do with me. Around the 19th of December, surrounded by the Yorkshire moors, Emily Bronte is said to haunt the grounds of the famous abode of the Bronte sisters. Her head bowed as in deep thought and meditation, as she wanders through Hayworth Passage, the path to Bronte Waterfall, and former Weaver's Restaurant, suddenly vanishes if anyone comes too close. And for those who don't know, Emily Bronte wrote Wuthering Heights.
She did.
And lastly, at Bishop's Castle in Shropshire, there stands the Stripper Stones.
The what stones?
The Stripper Stones, or Striper... No, or Striper Stones.
Oh, Striper Stone,
Okay. And legend has it that each year, on the 21st of December...
Oh, here we go. 21st one.
all the undead and the ghosts of England are said to be summoned to the Stripper Stones at the midwinter solstice to pay homage to the King of the Damned. So don't do an investigation on the 21st of December, because they're all in Shropshire. Oh, perhaps we should all go to Shropshire.
Let's all go to Shropshire.
Yeah, let's all go to the Striper Stones.
I'm saving that for next week, Andy.
What's that?
The 3 ghosts that come on Christmas night. Because incidentally,
Past, present, and future.
A Christmas Carol,
And
an 1844 book, which I forgot to just quickly go on for, because I put this up for later. This is one I was going to mention as well. Or have I already got it up? Yes, I have. A Christmas Carol was brought for Moulton.
For what?
For Moulton in Yorkshire. Okay. Yeah?
I'm not with you.
Right, I'm going to tell you what it is. A rare 1844 edition of the Charles Dickens A Christmas Carol has been bought for Malton, as part of a campaign to provide a literacy legacy for the town. Okay, it is hoped the book, purchased from a private vendor, will attract visitors to an area and help create a story for Malton. Yeah. Linked to the education, community events and the arts. Hidden from public view until now, the edition was commissioned by Charles Dickens for the wife of his great friend, lawyer Charles Smithson, after his untimely death at the age of 39. It is inscribed Mrs. Smithson from Charles Dickens, April 18th, 1844. Yeah?
John just said the house where Dickens wrote the book has been renovated.
There is a long-standing tradition that the office of Scrooge was based on Smithson's office in Chancery Lane in Malton, yeah, and that various characters in Dickens's novels were based on local residents. An appeal to raise the funds needed to buy the book was made in the Gazette and Herald, and writer and presenter Selina Scott in September. Okay. Selina, who lives in Malton, said she heard about the book coming up for auction in New York from a friend who knows she is has a keen interest in Dickens and Malton, and felt that the book belonged not to a private collector but to the town. And working with the local businessmen Steve Joel and Claire Chadwick, managers for the fundraising and marketing agency Calls UK, and individuals in the area, were contacted, including Simon Howard, chairman of Castle Howard Estate, Malton CIC, local tourist attraction Flamingo Land, and the Malton Museums Trust, and the Malton Dickens Society. Over the last century or so, Dickens's intimate association with Malton has largely been based on anecdotal evidence. I have, however, discovered in the early archives of my grandfather, who was born in 1867 and was at one stage editor of the Malton Messenger, many references to Dickens and A Christmas Carol and Malton literature heritage, says Selina. Yeah.
And he just said the 1844 edition would be worth a fortune.
When this rare and remarkable book came up for auction in New York, we had to act. We're proud to have brought the ghost of Dickens Dickens's Christmas back, and the volume will be on display at Castle Howard until Sunday, and then at the Talbot in Malton until January the 2nd, and then after that it will be looked after by York University Library. So that is where.
So basically Malton won't have the book. Because it's going to York.
It's going to York.
I mean I have a problem. There's twofold problems with a book of that age. One, you can't read it.
No.
Because you're not even allowed to touch it without gloves, because you're going to ruin.
But it's back.
Because you're going to ruin the paper.
Yeah.
And because you're oiling your fingers and stuff like that. But a book is meant to be read.
I know, but you turn the pages, it's just going to crumble.
Well, it wouldn't crumble, particularly because it's been well looked after. But the oil in your fingers would deteriorate the paper eventually.
Does it actually say how much they paid? The reserve price for the book was between $40,000 and $60,000, and Blakewell's rare book department said it could be worth as much as $100,000. It doesn't really say how much they bought it for.
Sounds a lot, but when you're talking about an original Dickens,
which has been subscribed for. God, I thought I'd shut that down then. When you think, it was subscribed and had a little inscription there for the solicitor or the lawyer or whatever he was, his wife after his death. That was quite good. There's a little personal inscription in there for, as I said,
the inscription from Dickens or
from Dickens.
No, that there is.
Yeah, the subscription inside said. His great friend was lawyer Charles Smithson, who they say was where the story was based, and it's inscribed inside with Mrs. Smithson from Charles Dickens, 8th of April 1844, after his untimely death. So basically, when his friend died, he did that for his missus.
Right.
So.
Having said that, did Dickens write it?
Did he have a ghost rider? Writer?
Apparently Dickens was the ghost, because it was supposed to be written by somebody else, and it was put in Dickens' name.
So
I think it was. I can't remember the guy's name, but he was an
aristocrat.
Quat. Who actually wrote these books, but it was put out in Dickens' name.
Yeah, speaking of Dickens, he was co-founder of the Ghost Club. Yes, he was. Wish we had it in our bookshop at House of Books, Yorkshire. Plug. There you go.
Is your book in the House of Books?
In Yorkshire.
In Yorkshire.
But anyway, time is fleeting, and next week is the last show of the year, maybe of our entire lifetime. So.
Yes, it could be our last show
of our life. Yes. So but
everything goes bang on the 21st.
Yes. So we're going to finish off next week, the 19th.
Shall we have a psychic bang?
Oh yeah.
I shall be seeing both of you on Boxing Day. I'm quite sure of that one.
Coming soon.
Well, next week, as I said, when we're back next week on the 19th, we have a full house, so we will be We will be moving downstairs into the living room, because we will have 7 people in the room. There will be Mark Rosney and his partner. There's a maybe on that. There will be Dave Shirley back with us from Wirral.
Who I haven't met yet.
Yes, you have. Oh no, he was here when you was in hospital. Yes, you were. There will also be this stand-in for Tony Toppin, Dex Dolby. Now, let me just pop along to his what's name, Mr. Dolby, and tell you a little bit about him. He's a spiritual explorer, seeker of new realities. So he's coming in. Nigel knows him. He knows Nigel, because he said, I know Nigel very, very well. And he says he actually classes himself as a transfiguration man. And he's
Seems to be lots of things there.
He does. He speaks quite a lot. Off-world visitors, centre visitations from beings not from this world, questions to the goddess creator of the created, some revealing facts about the solar maximum of 2012 by E.T. Anther, symptoms of the spiritual awakening, the risk of believing that the Mayan calendar ends December 21st. So perhaps next week we should talk all about that.
Well,
It'd be quite apt, wouldn't it?
Now that you said he's mad, remember these words.
I've been told he's from Barking. Not sure, Andy. I don't know how to find you. I did look. I beg your pardon. All right. But if you go onto my FB, Nigel, you'll find him. Okay.
No, they're all about themselves.
Oh, yeah, that's what I was on about. You'll find each other. Go onto my FB, Nigel.
Well, I think they were doing it to the Amazon bookshops.
Oh, right, okay. I have a problem with my mic. It's died on me, which right at the end of the show. No, I wouldn't bother. So, but yeah. So that's what's on next week. I know who we won't have next week.
Hi, I'm Neil Munnelly, and I'm proud to be keeping the paranormal friendly.
Yes. And I know who else we won't be having next week, because we haven't heard from him for quite a while.
Hi, I'm Chris Andrews from Phase 2 Paranormal in Stockport, and I'm proud to be keeping the paranormal friendly, where membership is a smiling face.
Yep, and he is now Club Zero.
Last time we saw him
again.
was Halloween, and you were speaking.
Yes, I was. So, so we'll be back, hopefully.
Every Wednesday night.
Yeah, if nothing happens after the
Neil Mahogany.
after the 21st.
This is where it's at.
It's a version of that we found that's been slowed right down.
800 something or other. I found it on YouTube.
I think the whole thing's about 15 minutes long now, isn't it?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, it's been really slowed down completely.
Yes. So you heard the start of that then, didn't you? We're not playing that. But as I say, you won't be with us next week, will you, Neil?
No, I won't. No. Well,
what have you got planned this week? There you go.
not a great deal, really. I've just had probably the worst day of my life today. I had a really bad day today that I want to forget for 12/12/12. So I'm glad not another one exists in my lifetime anyway.
Right. So I hope you've had a good 12/12/12. If you haven't, was it somebody I saw on Facebook that somebody said 1 2 1 2 1 2? Somebody thought they were checking their mic or something. Oh dear. So, but yeah. Sorry I haven't been saying much. The computer keeps on locking me up. That's okay, Anita. It's been nice having you on, and yeah, and hopefully we'll see you again or hear from you again. And as I say, next week's the last one of the year. Did anyone see what I put on Facebook? Can I just leave you with a thought that I had on my Facebook? Let me just find it because I'm on Steve's at the moment. Right, okay. I put on here, food for thought. 2012 apocalypse. Is it really coming? They say that on the 21st of December, the time of trial on earth will come. Judgment Day, the time of great purification, the end of this creation, the quickening, remember that one. The end of time as we know it, the shift of the ages, the apocalypse and Armageddon. Many have started preparations and trying to flee to possible sanctuaries. It was even said that one man has built an ark. Others say nothing will happen as there has been stargazers watching the skies constantly all over the world for many years and nothing is coming towards us to destroy us. But think about this. The weatherman will say it will snow on Tuesday but doesn't. It will rain on Wednesday but doesn't. And then it snows on Friday and rained on Sunday instead. The Nibiru collision with Earth has been predicted for many years, but will it happen so fast that we won't have time to react against the quickening? So do we take this for granted that the world won't be destroyed this 21st of December? But if not then, when? What do you reckon, guys? We're going to see you next week, and until then, all that's left to say is, and you can all say it as well, is keep the paranormal friendly. Good night and God bless.